Welcome to Truth UnCompromeyezed. I am your host, Rhonda. Join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Truth is peace. Truth is justice and freedom to love, live, and be. Music provided by sourcevibrations.com. I am love. I am peace. I am free. I have abundance. I have everything within me. For I was, for I am, for I always be. We are love. We are peace. We are free. We have abundance. We have everything within us. For we are, for we will always be. For Mother Earth is love. For Mother Earth has peace. For Mother Earth is free. For Mother Earth has abundance. For Mother Earth has everything within her. For she was, for she is, for she will always be. And so it is spoken. So it has been written, and it is done.
You have entered into a dimension of truth, where time does not exist and illusions are shattered. The journey of truth is intense. The journey of truth will set you free. Consider this a warning as you enter the dimension of truth uncompromised.
All right, family. Welcome to the Truth Uncompromised show. I am your host, Rhonda, and tonight is October 24th. We have a great show planned for you. This is the second show of our series, The Real Pilgrams, the true story of immigrants coming to America. So if you didn't join us last week, we are discussing how the official story of immigration from Caucasian/whites coming to America is far, 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 far from the popular narrative that they are portraying. The two main source of references that we'll be using for this series is White Trash, The 400-Year Untold History of Class in America by Nancy Eisenberg. And then also, They Were White and They Were Slaves, The Untrue History of the Enslavement of Whites in Early America. So we're going to pick up with part 2. Before I bring on my co-host, I do want to reference, and I know I probably reference this every time I play something from that, I guess it was a CD when it came out at the time. I can't even say album. Damn, I know I'm dating myself. That was George Benson. The song that I played, it is off of a CD called New Eurekan Soul. It's a compilation CD with a bunch of artists on it, and every single song on it is just slamming. And surprisingly, I mean, George Benson has always been talented. He is talented, rather, but that's like my favorite song from him. If you've never seen him in concert, I would highly recommend it. He is an excellent concert. But back to the CD. Every song on that CD is slamming. They do some in Spanish, still jamming. Even DJ Jazzy Jeff, I think his song is the last one on the CD. And he mixes through the whole song. And I was like, damn. I didn't realize how good of a DJ Jazzy Jeff really is and how underrated he has been over the years. Really, really tight. So for those music lovers, I will highly recommend that CD. I love it so much. I bought it once. I say somebody clipped me on my first one. Went and bought the CD again. Then, when everything started going digital, turned around and got it again. So that's how much I love that CD. Very, very great music. All right. So let me bring on my co-host, Brother Sean, and Sis Sandra. Let me bring on Brother Sean. Peace and love, brother. How are you?
Wholeness and power, sis. I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. Good to hear your voice.
Likewise. You know what to do.
I know. I heard that. Let me bring on Sis Sandra. Peace and love, sis. How are you?
Peace and love to you. I'm fine, thank you. And to you, Brother Sean and Yolanda and the family. How's everybody?
Good.
Wholeness and power.
Good to hear your voice, sis.
We need some wholeness and power.
That's for sure.
We got to make it happen, though.
That's true. True that. So, sis, what's going on in Cali? Have you been hit with the power outages yet?
No, I haven't been hit by it, and I better get everything I have to do off this computer before I do get hit. But it's supposed to be coming in tonight, this wind or something, and that's a possibility. I mean, listen, how many chances are that you got 4 ways out of your place and all 4 ways are blocked by fire?
Shit.
What's the chances of that? And so that's what happened the last. It was, we had ways out and they were all blocked by fire. So this doesn't make us feel any worse than being in a fishbowl, does it?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's a difficult thing to believe that all this is natural. I think we're dealing with this here,
When you get a chance, there is a YouTube channel by a gentleman called Logic Before Authority. And he checks the satellite images, and literally he predicted when those fires would break out by looking at the satellite images because on those images, he's showing explosions that are going off. And in each particular area where those explosions went off are where the fires are breaking off.
In other words, they said it's under the wires of the transformers, but that just doesn't make sense to me. Just happened to go off on the same day in the same, to shut people in. That if the fire comes down in the valley, you burn up, and there will be no, ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I know that there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
There's something wrong. It just can't be right that this is spontaneous. It just can't be. And so they have some fires already breaking out. I forget, up near Sacramento, San Francisco area, and San Bernardino, I think. They're breaking out down there. So that's already happening.
Well, I had someone that was traveling to San Fran, and they were coming back, and they totally shut the power off in the San Fran airport, wherever that airport is located. I've only been through there one time. So the power was totally shut off. So they were stranded for a little bit, for a couple of hours. So it's serious in Cali, y'all, but they have been messing with California for quite some time. I think they're trying to move a lot of people off of that land.
Yep. Do you know the Amazon had over 19,000 fires?
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that when that was a couple of months ago when all those fires broke out in the Amazon, right?
I'm talking about here recently. I saw it on internet.
Oh, that I didn't know.
Here recently, it's a little label right now. They're still having their fires, over 19,000 something fires. I said 19,000. But Lex Will and his wonderful self, he said they're looking for gold. So because on the East Coast there was underground cities that they buried and all that kind of stuff, or cities that was underground. And he can explain it to you a little bit more, because I said, now that makes sense, that they're actually burning up everything to get to the gold.
Well, who do we know? And I think Brother Lex is in the queue. I'm coming to you, sweetie. Who do we know that mines for gold?
Oh, the Inkies.
Water.
The Inkies. The Anunnaki. Yeah.
And rum. What you say, sis?
It's really time for them to be here, because Nibiru was supposed to be passing at this time, and they call it Jupiter, but they're looking for gold to do that atmosphere there. It's probably.
And some say, this is interesting. Some say that, well, not some. That's what like the Semitic and all of that say, that they screwed up their own planets and atmospheres and all of that. And then came to Mars, messed up that little atmosphere, which this is just my little lowly personal opinion. I think they're trying to, if they have not already done it, restore Mars's atmosphere so folks can have them and their, children or whatever can have an exodus plan, because the realm where we are is changing so much. It's going through so many changes. What's the guy's name? MB33. He's another one that watches the sky. And did you see the video a couple of days ago where one of his viewers was sending in a video, and she was really taping the lightning. It looked like plasma to me, but whatever. We're going to say lightning. But the sky was purple behind her, mind you. So the lightning she was recording that, and then recorded the lightning or the plasma hitting a UFO object, and she didn't expect to see that. So it's a lot of stuff and changes going on, which is why they keep throwing up all of this impeachment shit to keep distracted on what's really going on. Yeah.
You know, I do remember that the pole had about 100 lightning strikes one day. And
yes,
they thought that,
I remember that.
Yeah. So, I mean, nobody really lives there. So it may be that plasma that's doing it, because the plasma is supposed to straighten up this planet, right? Get rid of the beast part of the planet.
Yeah, it's definitely a purifier. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And again, I encourage people, because I had even gotten behind, watch Black Lightning and watch the Netflix series Raising Dion, because Raising Dion is so deep, y'all. Damn, I hate to give it away, but I got to give you this little bitty nugget. There is this lightning man, and it's literally, you all, this walking being or entity made out of lightning or plasma.
Oh, yeah,
that's gravitating towards certain individuals, and I'm sitting there like, shit, they are really, really putting this stuff out there. So, anyhow, but I would encourage the family to check both of those out, both of those particular shows out. So, before I bring on 330, I think that's Brother Lex, Brother Sean, you have any go ahead on with the fuckery?
Do I? Once again, it's the distractions.
It is.
Yeah.
Obvious distractions. And why are they not talking about, what's his name, Cummings, dude from Baltimore?
Oh, the one that passed?
Oh,
Elijah?
yeah, Elijah, yeah.
He was put to death, military tribunal.
You're kidding. No, you ain't kidding. Okay. Wow. For treason?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
And all that money he took from them folks in Baltimore.
Oh, that was just up.
Yeah, because you know, Baltimore, oh my God. And how long was he over that district? Wasn't it 30, 40 something years?
40 years or something.
No, I thought it was like 1,000 as old as it had. So it seemed like he didn't
I know, right?
Baltimore was called Baltimore.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's Baltimore has went to the shit, which is sad. You know.
It was a really bad one.
Yeah, great city, great people, but I mean, what?
But he's also involved in that pedophilia, all that stuff. I mean, everybody that you see hollering the loudest got the most to hide. That's why they keep hollering impeachment, because they know what's about to happen.
Well, you know, that's the reason they probably doing this impeachment, is because he's about moving on them. And they want him to be stopped immediately, even if they have to lie on him to get him out of there. They want him out of there because he's probably moving on them, because he moved on Bush, remember? Daddy Bush.
Oh, he's been moving on everybody since day one. It's not him. It's the generals that are behind him, the people who put him in that position.
Right.
They wouldn't have put Trump in office if he had some dirt. They done thorough research on him first. Just for this. And what you're seeing happening, like as far as with those fires and everything else, the Democrats are behind all that. Now, the reason that I'm bringing any of this up. It's because we got elections coming up.
Tell the truth
And our people running around like goddamn fools, ready to elect these maniacs as their leaders.
I know
That's fuckery to the utmost.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers who eating you, taking your babies, and all type of shit like that. And you want to keep voting for these motherfuckers. You say you want change. How? You still playing the same game.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're giving you the choices.
Yep.
They're giving you the options of who you can vote for.
Exactly.
And you think that you voted for this person. No, you didn't. They told you to vote for this person.
Exactly.
Oh, no. I
System.
listened to them. Right. They talk about, no, I listened to them. I listened to what they was talking about. Who wrote their script?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, it's all scripted. Indeed. Sis, you have any go ahead on with the fuckery?
I just went over to the Social Security office, and they have my birth date wrong, the day I was born on. And so I have to go over there to correct it, right? So I go over there with my little form trying to get myself out of this U.S. government and get myself back into my natural person as their Aboriginal. And do you know they said I couldn't do it? That I have to go to court and have I have to have a judge do that.
You couldn't change your birthday or your classifying
my racial designation. My racial designation, I could not change that. I could not get outside of this U.S. government without a court order. Now, I was like, what's your problem? Why do I have to wear a fake name that they gave us? Black, African American, whatever. They said I needed a court order to do it.
Right. But doesn't your birth certificate say Negro?
Yes.
Okay, end of story.
But they didn't want to change it. I don't care what it says. They said
right. I totally hear you, but I'm trying to put people up on game. If your birth certificate says Negro, checkmate, end of story.
Yeah, no, that's right, but they don't know that. So I had
Yeah, they do. Trust me, they do. All you got to do, you don't even have to do nothing. They know who you are.
I know they know who we are, but they just don't want to give us the benefits of the land or anything they done stolen. That's
right.
all it is.
And me personally, and to each is its own, I have no problem. It's none of my business on how people want to move. But me personally, I don't want that reservation money. I don't want it. I don't want that. I don't need them to recognize who I am. None of that bullshit, because I already know. I know and they know. Now, this is just me personally. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do, nor am I in judgment on anyone on how you choose to self-identify. I'm just saying for me, fuck them. That's just for me. That's just for me, because you cannot tell me about me because I didn't jump out of their womb. So nobody is going to tell me who I am. So they're going with that bullshit. We're proving time and time again that all of these labels are just fantasy. Everybody's running around with a label on them that does not really truly describes their origins
And like I keep telling people, that you get that associated karma attached to it as well. So far as them and their system, now this is just me. I am not going to go to a system that was set up for deceit and ask them for a goddamn thing. I already know what it is. So, just lending just my experience and just how I feel, and just for anybody else that may get frustrated over the quote system, it was never designed for indigenous folks to gain anything. We've already done countless shows showing you how this Roman system is. They come in, they conquer, you convert to that Roman kingdom and, in essence, strip away your identity. So, that's why it's important to know thyself. But I feel you where you're coming from. It's bullshit totally, but that's the system. That's how they roll.
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, the system itself has to go.
Exactly.
Fuck any benefit. We don't bend to fit.
There you go. There you go.
A goddamn thing to give us. Everything is ours.
Absolutely.
So, what is it they gonna give you? We don't need them to publicly recognize who we are. When you have their recognition, that's a goddamn another treaty with them, saying that, okay, we know who you are, but we still gonna stay here and run shit.
Exactly.
We gonna give you what we want to give you. Okay. You're an Indian. Okay, fine. Here. Go sit your ass over there. Leave me alone. When it's all yours, they gotta go. Period. Ain't no more treaties. Ain't no more signing. Shit. The only time you have to try and undo something is if you plan on staying in their system.
Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is not fuck with them. Period.
Well, the problem
It's
with
that
what
simple. No, I'm just saying for people in general. Anybody that's listening, that's worried about getting benefits, anytime you ask them for something and they give it to you, they're taking more from you than you're getting.
Yeah. That's for
because
sure.
you really ain't getting shit.
Mm-mm.
They give you fiat paper all goddamn day long because they don't know it don't mean shit.
It sure don't.
Don't nobody else want it. Other countries don't want this bullshit.
Around the world, exactly.
Oh, but that's how I eat. That's how I pay my bills. Yeah, okay. What are you eating? The bills that you're paying for, what is the shit doing to you? What is the lights doing to you? What is the water doing to you?
Right.
You're paying to be slowly killed. I'm doing the shit my damn self. I ain't being a hypocrite about it, but at least I know what the fuck is going on.
Exactly.
Well, I take exception to labels if I have the ability to change them. And I have the ability, I thought, to change it. So I went to change it. And they have us as prisoners of war in this country, whether people know it or not. We are under prisoners of war title because they came here and they conquered and they took us as prisoners. So when our leaders have lied and said we African Americans, we blacks, we colored, and all this kind of stuff, I like to get rid of that stuff because personally I hate the labels. Labels. If I'm going to be anything, I'd rather be the child of my dad, but not African American and all that kind of stuff. it just really kind of irritates my skin. It really does. It really makes me upset. So that's one reason I want to change it. I wasn't looking for a dime. I just wanted to get out from under the label.
Absolutely.
Just stop using it and stop responding to it.
Oh, I do believe that. But what's written
then you're out of
not
it.
More so.
Yeah, but you're out of it. If you're letting the fact that they got something wrote on paper stop you from being you, then they still got power over you. I don't give a fuck what they got written down. It ain't got a goddamn thing to do with who and what I really am. I don't care how many times they write it or recite it. It don't make it true. So, I mean, they can write till their fucking fingers fall off. Write some more shit. I don't give a fuck.
You know, it's interesting. Earlier this week, I was having a conversation with a coworker, a white coworker, and she's young. I do have about 20 years on her. So she was talking about just these different groups that people form in different organizations. And so she kind of looked at me. She said, you know, maybe I shouldn't say this. She said, but I just don't understand the whole African American thing. She said, you're not African. And I kind of looked at her and chuckled. I said, you're absolutely right. I'm not African. And it's really insulting. So, even all that to say, people know. I mean, it is what it is. People know that want to know, and those that don't want to know will keep their head buried in the sand. That's their right. That's their business. Oh, well, whatever. So, let me bring on 330. I think that's Brother Lex. And then I see Brother 832. Yay! And Brother 832 is solely the reason this series is being put together. He kept mentioning this book, White Trash, and I finally bought it. And I'm like, oh, first couple of pages. I'm like, oh, I know why he kept mentioning this. So let me bring on 330, and then I'm coming to you, 832. Peace and love. Your line is open. Hey, brother.
How we all
Peace
doing?
and love.
Peace and love.
Well. Shauna. How's everybody doing?
How are you?
Hey. I'm doing good. Good.
You
know, interesting conversation everybody starts off with, you just can't open without controversy. Ha ha ha.
You know that's what we do.
Nobody's got the same opinion. Not I heard all of you, and that right, and it's beautiful because you don't just, it's fine to sit here and say I'm speaking for myself, but whether you realize it or not, you represent other people that think like you. So it is tremendous to see this kind of a situation because, again, it's not one person's opinion being, crammed down your throat, and then, again, you guys just disagreed. And it wasn't fuck you, you're this, it's wonderful, that's just like, it's just unnecessary.
It is.
This stuff obviously makes us bitter because think about what you done shown. Reparations don't mean shit to us. We enslaved them. They overthrew us and took our documents. So our documents do matter, as she stated, because it's our heirship to our title, whether we understand it or not. When they do this, as they've done this to other nations, they seem to put the nations in a trust. And the trust is sitting there waiting for the children of the people overthrown until they figure out what's happened to them. Switcheroo kind of thingy, and again, without everybody's help, everybody's different, opinion, and here's the fuckery, and of course, you reading the books and sharing them with us. We wouldn't have I have the books. They're in the basement. I haven't read them yet. And you did this you guys did this as a group back in January. So again, you're making tremendous progress where all these people have been now proven to be shitheads that can't think for themselves, and they're just repeating shit like the monkeys that they claim other people are. Now again, how does it look when we get on fucking TV? We've been enslaved for 400 years, and the whole fucking world looks at us like, shut the fuck up. You enslaved them, dumbass. You've bit off more than you can chew. However they look at it, we're the liars.
Right.
Yes, what you guys did as a group.
Yeah.
You guys straightened out our path.
Yep, indeed.
It's truly what you did.
Indeed, brother.
The names do matter because it's like this. If somebody takes control of the law of your area and they say Sean is a witch, and they get the mentality to burn witches, and you said, I don't give a shit what they call me, they better not touch you. They better not touch me, but they touch you as a group. It's not a one-on-one thing now. Now, as a group, they've attacked who you are because you didn't defend who you are.
Right.
And the only thing I can say about this is, like it's been stated, everybody's opinion is their own. All I can say is this. If we're going by a Roman European system, we are the Roman European. This is our system. If by law these things are set in place, these are laws that our ancestors created. These people using these laws are interpreting them wrong, so they stay in control. So the more that our people play these games of voting, the more that they will be ruled over by Africans.
Damn, now you know Lex, you threw in the last African part.
I had to. You can't sit there. You can't be the oppressed and the oppressor. If the books if I go by the books of Columbus and say the Israelites are here, then why wouldn't I go by the books written by the same people at the same time saying the Africans were enslaved and brought here? So why would I have any respect for these people that say, "Oh, we're Africans, we're Kemet"? You're drunk. Your white high school teacher taught you that, and you're just mimicking shit. You went to jail, somebody taught you that, you're just repeating them. You're not thinking for yourself. All this ammunition we call literature out here, and you're still talking this, green, red, and whatever color is African. What? Come on, it's old.
Right.
You got 100,000 videos of Africans talking shit about Americans. Black and American, fucking stupid, lost their country, lost their land. They have no connection to us. That's what they say. All these videos say the same thing. You got a man saying no connection to us. You got women saying no. What tribe do these niggas think they from? They go back to Africa. Where exactly do they think they're going? Which African country says you are from here? I don't hear them saying shit. I ain't heard them say shit. I don't even hear fucking Ethiopians saying, come live with us.
Right.
I hear them saying exactly the opposite.
Right. Agreed. So I'm going to bring on 832. Dang, somebody else was in the queue. I'm coming to you in just a second. So let me bring on brother 832. Peace and love, brother. How are you?
Rhonda, Sandra, my sisters from other misters. Feathers up.
Feathers up, brother.
Demonic parasites down. And whoever fits that definition, I think you know who you are. China, my brother from another mother, sitting on Mount Olympus, throwing them black lightning bolts down tonight. And that's exactly why I keep saying that, Rhonda. Keep that black light on reference. Yeah. Have you been watching that? Let me do a quick TV review before I come with what I called you to get in early this week. Have you seen the latest episodes of season 3 of Black Light?
I missed this week, so I got to go back and catch up.
But you have seen how he's taken off the uniform and was in all white in a prison setting, essentially.
Yes, I did.
Isolated
yes, I did.
From his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And you notice that she's no longer being called Thunder, they're calling her Blackbird.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have you seen the one-on-one conflict between, you know who Bill Duke is? That brother's so black, he almost blue-black. He looks like a toad sometimes. And then you got the albino white, I call him the white gorilla.
Yeah.
With the blonde hair.
Albino dude, yeah.
Okay, they had the straight-up black versus white conflict in the last episode. He threw open the roof, let UV light come in. He said, I think you suffer from too little melanation, or something to that effect.
What? Oh, man.
In addition, they had an episode, I think that's the one you probably watched, the last one, where they was talking about your black ass, and I'm going to get your ass. I mean, I don't know who the production crew is on this, but this is in the context of what we mean by the definition they give. This is the blackest show on TV. And it's not just because it's a so-called comic book superhero.
Right,
okay?
Right.
So because I don't want to give it away, if you haven't watched it, you got to check this last episode out.
Okay, I missed it.
Oh, and by the way, the character's name is Tobias Whale, which is a nod to Moby Dick, the great white whale.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
And then the entire cast is, and again, as if we were back in the 1970s, we would say that there was a pro-black. It's gone even further than the Huxtables, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, the lead character is the principal of the high school.
Right.
The mother is a genetic scientist.
Yep, she's a genetic scientist. Yep.
Who is trying to take the children that they call the pod kids and the ones suffering from green light, who turn into what they call meta-humans. Now, I'll put a pin on that for a minute because I know you're going to circle back to the DNA aspect of it. The reason I wanted to get in early this week was to kind of follow up with Brother Lex and y'all's back and forth last week.
Yeah, we missed you last week. Go ahead.
25 years after apartheid, black people cannot live and work in this small South African city. October in Orania, the city is called Orania, somewhere in the northern quarters of the Cape Town portion of so-called South Africa. When the sun sets, long ribbons of burnt orange settle on the horizon, and the flies and mosquitoes that come with the summer's oppressive heat haven't arrived yet. It is Magdalene Clayhan's favorite time of the year. I'll jump over that and go to where she talks about whenever they choose, they leave the houses unlocked. It's a good life. It's a big privilege. But there is much more to the small northern Cape Town than the bucolic ideal painted by Klinghaus. Incredibly, 25 years after the fall of apartheid, Orania is a place for white people only. Wow. This woman runs one of Orania's biggest enterprises, a call center whose business is recruiting and retaining members for Solidarity, a trade union primarily of Afrikaner workers. And I'm stressing Afrikaner because we're going to circle back to that with this Africa shit. And AfriForum, a self-styled civil rights movement. AfriForum recently met with U.S. President Donald Trump's administration and Tucker Carlson of Fox News, and you remember this so-called controversy, to tell them that Afrikaners are facing a widely discredited genocide. Both have made extensive investments in Orania's construction boom. In other words, the Trump real estate mogul empire is investing in them building a white-only ethnic enclave. You follow me? Mm-hmm. Oranians claim the town is a cultural project, not a racial one. Only Afrikaners are allowed to live and work there to preserve Afrikaner culture, the argument goes. Magdalene Kleinos owns a call center that employs around 55 people in Orania. The reality, however, is a disquieting and entirely white town, littered with old apartheid flags and monuments to the architects of segregation. While there are no rules preventing black people from visiting, those who live nearby fear they would be met with violence. The town has faced numerous calls for it to be broken up over the years, with prominent author and advocate Tambika Nguk Kaitobi arguing its existence violates South Africa's successful dismantling of racial segregation. Orania, he says, represents downright hostility to the idea of a single, united, non-racial country. Now, we'll circle back to that second. Here's the kicker. Orania was created in 1991, a year after Nelson Mandela released from Robben Island, and 3 years before the country's first democratic election. Set among lush pecan nut orchards in the otherwise arid Karoo, it is set up as an Afrikaner-only hamlet, not dissimilar from the ethnic Bantustans established under former Prime Minister Hendrik Verwoerd, often dubbed the architect of apartheid. I'll jump over this next, all these self-flagellations of talking about these great statues, just like the Confederate heroes we have here littered across the South. By the end of the 1980s, the probability of losing control already many Afrikaners, with some believing that impending democracy posed an existential threat to the white Afrikaans way of life. A few felt protecting that required becoming a demographic majority somewhere rather than remaining a minority everywhere. So a small group of Afrikaners, Verwoerd's daughter and son-in-law, Harold Boshoff, among them, purchased a strip of land on the southern banks of the Orange River and went about setting up a Volksstaat, or independent homeland, where Afrikaners would decide their own affairs. Orania's founders did not settle on virgin territory, but on the remains of a half-realized 1960s project to build canals and dams along the Orange River. A community of 500 poor black and mixed-race squatters, check the word squatters, who made their homes in the buildings left behind by the project, stood between the new owners and their whites-only vision. Speaking to the community after the purchase, Boshoff reportedly said he did not buy a bus with passengers. What followed, according to Cambridge historian Edward Kavanaugh's History of Land Rights on the Orange River, was one of the last large-scale evictions under apartheid. It was carried out by the future residents of Orania with the assistance of beatings, pistol whippings, and dogs. Now, here's the key part here now about the existence of Orania today in 2019. After 3 decades of a quiet backwater, Orania is booming. Its population, currently around 1,700, has doubled over the last 7 years. The most recent census estimates growth of more than 10% a year, outstripping most comparable rural towns and more proportionately than South Africa's biggest cities. Population growth, now check these 2 paragraphs out here. Population growth means flourishing housing market and construction industry. Neat suburban homes have been joined by new apartment blocks and walk-ups, which sell for as much as 1.5 million rand or 80,000 pounds, putting them on par with comparable homes in Johannesburg. There is an industrial zone of brick and aluminum factories which sell their products around South Africa. China buys most of the pecan nuts. Let that sink in for a second. The growth shows no signs of slowing. A sewage works meant to accommodate 10,000 future residents, which means 10 times the current 1,700 population, is in the pipeline. There are designs to transform the town's humble technical training facility, where many of the skills driving the town's new construction were taught, into a university. Now, this final paragraph segues into white trash, exploitation, and squatters. Not a single brick has been laid by a black worker. In a reverse of the usual situation in South Africa, all low-paying work in Orania, from keeping the town's gardens to packing the shelves in its grocery stores, is performed by hard-up white Afrikaners. It's increasing numbers of poor laborers whose tendency is often less secure and who either rent or rely on subsidies from Orania's cooperative bank, who are largely behind the town's growth and growing population. The way you get in, Orania is owned by you know how these Afrikaner words and this Dutch stuff, Vikkortskraal Aandelblok, or the Vikkortskraal Share Block Company, which together with a series of internally elected bodies is responsible for the town's municipal decision-making. People who want to live in Orania buy shares in this block instead of freehold. In other words, you don't independently own your land or home.
Right.
You buy into the corporate entity and shares. The screening of prospective shareholders allows for tight control. Buyers undergo extensive vetting, central to which is their fidelity to Afrikaans language and culture, a commitment to employing only white Afrikaners, and a string of conservative Christian undertakings. Unmarried couples, for instance, cannot live together. I just wanted you to have that context before commenting on how that is not just ethnic cleansing. It's not in the manner in which we particularly see as far as genocide. It is the continued perpetuation of, and before I forget, when you have a chance, you go back and look at Dane's latest thing about who's responsible for slavery and how he keeps referencing those original squatters were the tenant farmers who were white people that were sharecropping to support Nick's quote-unquote Negro farm operations.
Yep.
And then they had a Homestead Act in 1841 that allowed them to steal our ancestral land. So, yes, Lex, you are correct in much of what you were saying. But our predicament is not being out of Africa. It is being of the original stock of all life on Mama Earth. And so, yes, as you said last week, and I will continue to hold my wounded masculine pride, my sister.
I'm so proud of you.
No one can own this land. You cannot own it. You can only be an appropriate caretaker. However, just as in most documentation, paperwork, and bullshit that we are trying to distance and extricate ourselves from, the firstborn has the first responsibility, correct? And our ancestry is not in dispute. Our mindset is.
Right.
So it matters not what others call us. It matters not what you call yourself, even, Sandra, my good sister. It matters what you truly are. And so, see, we continue to have these discussions and debate on language, on definition. That is the ultimate distraction, because at the end of the day, it matters not what we are described. When you go back to that little scene, when you see that white gorilla, see him being scorched by that UV, as you like to say, tell that shit to the what? To the what?
Tell it to the plasma.
Say,
I don't want to hear it. Tell it to the plasma. I don't want to hear it.
Wait till you see Tobias Whale in his cell scorching under that goddamn plasma.
That's the only part that I saw real quick, because I was doing other stuff and I walked in when Bill Duke had walked in. I don't know what the expression was, and then he with that motherfucking light. I said, oh shit, I gotta go back and watch this entirety.
So you saw him put on his sunshades and then lean in. So you can hear him lean in and whisper, "It seems you're not quite enough melanated."
Oh, that's what he said. I didn't hear that part, but I saw him put that UV radiation on him. I'm like, oh shit, I got to go back and watch this episode.
And so when these Afrikaners, with their Afrikaans, which was of Dutch origin, correct? Correct? Afrikaans, Dutch, and the Dutch East Indian Company. Have I circled back to this so-called thing that you had with that video the guy said last week about what is the true African slave trade? And who are these Dutch masters? And I yield.
All right, Brother 832. Peace and love. Glad to hear your voice again. Peace and love, brother.
Hey, sis.
Go ahead. I see you, 646. I'm coming to you, I promise. Go ahead, Brother Sean.
When all the witches were being burned, or so-called witches, did they not say that they were witches, but still got burned?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
When the colonizers came over here, did they not know who our ancestors were?
Yeah.
Still done their business, did they? Then set up and
Indeed.
renamed us.
Indeed.
I remember the elders being afraid to tell us that we were Indians.
Yeah.
So-called Indians. Because you would be killed if you used it. So they accepted these other terms, nigger, black, and we get killed for those terms too. So it doesn't matter what the colonizers call us. They want to kill us anyway. That's what they do.
Right.
That's where they gotta go. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
What you call me don't matter. It really don't, because anything they choose to call us, they still gonna kill us by it, because by their legal definitions, they have the right to, because we're their property, because they created us, even though it's just a legal fiction that they create.
Right, on paper, right.
Right, but then we accept it and get killed because of it. Then you say who you are, and you get killed because of that. The bottom line is we're at war.
Mm-hmm.
We should be handling our business and not worried about no names. After we handle our business, call yourself what you want. You free to name, rename, claim, reclaim,
right,
any and everything. The bottom line is, go ahead.
Well, then what is our business, respectfully? Because if we handle our business and then deal with that, I understand. But if handling our business is handling our name and our paperwork to separate from them, then all is one.
Right. Agreed.
If we're pure energy, and all this is the matrix, and the experience we're going through, our whole purpose is to attain to our higher self and get up out of this. We ain't supposed to keep coming back to this. We keep coming back because we've been fucked up somewhere. And all paperwork is soul binding. So that means that you sign up for another go-round. I'm not trying to keep coming back. Anybody that want to try and master the game, go for it. I'm tired of it.
Just a clean forfeit. That's all. Just a clean forfeit.
Yeah.
No, I've served my purpose.
And that's what I think when Brother Black was on the show last year, and he was kind of talking about the new system coming online. And I told him that I'm not in support of that. I'm in the mindset of all of it being gone because my soul has gone through the cycles. And this is the last go-round for me in a lower density realm of this nature. And I told him then, I said, what I see happening is a split. It's going to be a split of folks that are just tired of the system, period, from a spiritual level. They have totally moved on. And then you're going to have another split where folks want to build a new system that is going to be in their favor. And then you're going to have another split of folks that want to keep the same system going because they have not, whether or not you want to say evolved enough, whether or not you want to say they have risen to higher consciousness, whatever the case may be, will stay in the current system and keep spinning their wheels trying to make it better. And that is the split in the different dimensions that I feel we're currently going through and what we're currently witnessing. So that's why everybody's particular view or what they feel is going to be a little differently because at the end of the day, it is where your consciousness and where the seat of your soul stands in the matter, okay? Because everybody's journey is different. We are just fortunate enough to be witnessing this split, okay? And I also believe that there are, because like I tell folks, anytime you deal with paperwork, there's two aspects. There's a physical aspect to it, and there's a spiritual aspect to it, okay? So there are these different realms, these same demiurges trying to re-sign people to contracts to be under their particular realm, and I call them gang members, to continue for another cycle. So we're talking thousands and thousands of years of another cycle. So now that's just my feeling from my soul. And I think we're going to continue to see these types of conversations. And even in a quote, quote, woke community, we're going to see them the most because we're coming into this information and it's hitting people differently based on your level of consciousness and based on your soul, based on where the seat of your soul sits. But we're all here at this very moment for a purpose. And the main reason I did the shows on the black nobility, and now we're getting into the whole white slavery thing, is to kind of show folks of the karma, the cyclical karma that happens based on actions and decisions. Because I know through a spiritual experience that melanated folk, we had to clean up this realm because we started the fuck shit at the end of the day. So that's why our bloodline is also mixed with the quote, quote, black nobility bloodline and indigenous bloodline. It was to clean up and break the karma, break the karmatic curses, to give your bloodline the opportunity to make better choices, per se, for them to get out. So I'll yield, sis, if you want to put something on it. Go ahead. I promise 646 I'm coming to you. Go ahead, sis.
You know, I'm looking at the spiritual part of naming and claiming it, okay? Mm-hmm. So if I was able to do that physically, which they refused me to do, I keep saying it, and I keep saying it, and I keep saying it until I get the spiritual part of it, and then the universe will pick up my signal.
Right.
Everybody hearing my voice will understand this is what we need to do to get out of this junk. We need to name it, I hate to say this, and claim it. And if
Right.
we couldn't
That's
do it,
what you want to name it and claim it. That is your manifestation, to name it and claim it.
That's what I said. I think this is what I did.
Yeah,
I did say that.
Yeah.
But I want to bring up one point, because we're all going to have our differences on this one. Did you notice who he said financed that place? Trump. Now, if you remember, a long time ago, we talked about rents. And the new president that got into office over there in Africa and ran every one of them Americanas out of there, took back their land, took back their farms and everything, and they could not have land. So on rents, they made a plea to the United States. This is under Obama.
Oh, I remember you talking about that. Yeah. I think, sis, that was you that talked about that. Yeah, go ahead.
They made a plea to bring them people to this country and get them set up in this country.
Sure did.
So Trump obviously had a better idea, which I could say for not coming here, which is great. But he made it where he financed a place, a small place for them to live, because they were rents in the conservative groups or nationalists, whatever they call them things.
Was trying to plead their case. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Trump answered that. And he said that, and somebody else, the other dude, he mentioned, I don't know who he is, but so that I see has come to fruition because they set it in motion to put some money behind their words and get things changed over there, so they have that little place. But they did take all the farms, and they were ran off by the Africans or whatever they call themselves. I forget what country that was. They ran them out of there. But I just wanted to remind people they did.
Yeah, it's some interesting stuff going on, because I still think back to the Sumerian text and the other ancient text that talks about those Anunnaki. When you do a little bit more studying, you know that they were 8, 9, 10 feet tall, dark with locks. And how they came here mining for gold and brought slave workers. And where did all that take place? All that shit took place in South Africa, specifically with what they're calling Africa now. Specifically Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So just food for thought. Let me bring on 646, because they've been more than patient with us. So hold on a second. 646, your line is open.
Peace and love, Rhonda. How are you?
Peace and love, brother. I'm well. Good to hear your voice. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. I was just thinking about last week's show, and I just love the way it just keeps connecting and growing and flowing and bringing up all that needs to be brought up to be worked out, and it's so awesome. Peace and love to the panel, Sister Sandra, that is, and Brother Sean.
Peace and love.
Peace and love to y'all, and the new brother Lance. What is it?
Lex, Lex.
Shalom. How you doing, man?
Oh, Lex. Peace and love. And to Brother 832, I tell you, it's also awesome. And you know what? I went in. I came in and out of the queue because I don't mind speaking. Right? It's just that I am so conscious of the so many different levels of thoughts and ideas and even though it sounds like we be talking the same words, but you know, mindset is everything, right?
Yeah.
And you know, everybody get a whole big different picture, and reading that may not really, you know, connect the way it ought to because of the difference in the levels and the timelines they referring to, and it's so awesome though. What I had originally was mulling over and was gonna just put up a picture in terms of when we were talking about the fluoride and the sulfur and the neem on the last program, and then when we brought up the different forms of the krypton or the kryptonite and the colors, and you know, I was saying, damn, you know, it seems that we look at something while we forgetting something else, or how it's inclusive in it, to help to reshape the angle from which we're looking at it. In other words, all right, in earlier programs where you brought up about the information about how education and information was controlled by the Smithsonian. All right, so just based on that alone ought to tell us, and we ought to keep reminding ourselves that therefore damn near everything that's coming to us is on a false platter. It's on a false premise. And it needs plenty analytical unearthing, if you will.
Yeah.
In order to sort of straighten out so that the communication gets, you know, somewhere.
Right.
Now we know that those things that we were taught not to honor, those different legends and myths and things like that, those are the real keepers of treasures to me. And so when we look at, for example, this concept of Superman, right, and we saw where it was coming from in terms of they put this Caucasian, quote-unquote, white things, everything that was other than ourselves, to present as Superman. And then when we look and we see and hear about the fluoride and the krypton or the kryptonite and each being a residue of the other in some form or fashion. And now we're not mindful yet, though, still of who we truly are.
Exactly.
It's not that we're more than Superman. So when we look at the fact now, I think Brother Lex brought it out that was attempting to bring it out. He wasn't. I know he seems to be laid back a little and throws, and not just him, but many folks be throwing things to the riddle form and then waiting for you know, the fish to get on the hook so that he can say, yeah, okay, now you with me. But it seems that what he was mentioning was that, well, suppose we looked at it like this, that they didn't put the fluoride in to hurt us, they actually put it in to protect themselves. Or they didn't put
that shit was deep. That shit was deep.
Yeah. and so when we can look at it like that, to me, that's more of the correct perspective, because I mean, the only time they do anything else besides self-preservation is when they could make some extra so-called money on it. So in the meantime, we already know that all their medical studies and everything was about them, not about us. And their challenge was that they couldn't figure out why we can stay alive and they can't.
Yeah.
So all their operations was about going in to see what do they have in them that we don't have in us.
That we don't have, yeah.
Preserving their own longer. It was a great point.
And so, you know, now again, though, when we start referring to these levels and we say like the word, my sister said the word universe and connect it with spirit. Meanwhile, when I hear the word universe, I'm looking at it as a level much less than spirit, greater than just physical.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware that spirit is the essence of it all, yet it is not those things that then we make a form. We find a form in universe. We find a form in paperwork. We find a form in the name, and all that is the garbage, and that's where Sean is. I hear you, Sean, loud and clear. We and Sister Rhonda, where you saying I don't care about none of that shit. You know, I hear that. You know, and it's real. And the thing is that being able to detach ourselves from these forms and these things that someone placed in front of you, we almost like the lab things where they even be using all types of terms to describe like how they ring the bell and your mouth water because you were playing through water when they ring the bell.
Yeah.
And that's the same way with all these words and forms and ideas and concepts that's based on absolutely nothing real. It's and it takes me back to, like I was telling you about the legends of the missing pieces, where because of the missing pieces and the desire for control and power, they wouldn't tell you we missing the pieces. They'd rather tell you we got it all. We the experts. And it goes like this.
Right.
And we keep forgetting that it's missing pieces. And then our train of thought, our line of thinking, not even knowing that, yes, we form it if we lend our thoughts to it. Yep. The universe is mental. We are the creators.
Exactly.
We are the caretakers. But then if we're sick with the wrong thoughts, then we're also the harmdoers. And that's where we have to really get this mindset thing really back in order. I mean, and this is the work. This is the work. What we're doing. The sharing. This communicating. This is the vibration. Raising that tone, raising that level of awareness, bringing us up to realize that we're the ones, and we're the collective, and we're the individual, and we are it. We are the I ams. All right, and if it takes 2 or 3 of us, see, there's truth in all these things, but not the whole and completeness of truth. Because once you have things printed and you have a form and you have a label and you have a box, you ain't nowhere near spirit no more. You can't even reach universe in a box. You have to raise up. You have to let that mess go. You have to be able to look at it from all the angles to see what it completely is, and know that if it's a form, it can't be complete. A form is just like a picture. You take it with the camera, and the only way that picture is going to change is if you do something with it. Meanwhile, life is ever flowing, and it's ever flowing through us and in us and around us and about us. And yes, we do have a lot of control on what it becomes, but at the same time, our ideas lock us into what we make because we have to be responsible for self.
Yes.
But I tell you, it is so. I mean, and I just thank you for what you're doing. Keep up the great work. Thank the audience. Thank the family, the listeners, the participators. It's all good. And
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Peace and love. Peace and love. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I had to drop the explosion bomb on him. Very well said and beautifully said at that. Thank you so much for that. All right, family, let's get to it. So I am going to go to where we left off. Shoot, I got so much stuff highlighted in this. This kind of reminds me of the Negro Question book when we did the Black Nobility series. Just stickers everywhere and highlighted. So again, White Trash, the 400-year untold history of class in America, Nancy Eisenberg. And this book was actually on the New York Times bestseller. Now, there are other videos out there on YouTube that break the book down as well. I did not listen to those videos because I wanted to read it with my own eyes and get to it that particular way. So we also last week talked about the story of Pocahontas, and which was a shout out to the author again, because she pretty much says how that was being romanticized, and that's not how it was. That she was, how old was Pocahontas? So fucking disgusting. Was she
11-year-old victim?
11. Yeah. So basically, pedophilia is the story, but that's the official narrative love story. Bullshit love story that they're giving the populace, saying that this particular child bridged the gap between the Indians and the Pilgrims. Okay, so just brush over the fact that she was a child, and just brush over the fact that also the other aspect of it, using a woman to pretty much get to the land and sanction pilgrims being on the land. All right, so the next portion of the book, she kind of starts going into the Exodus in Europe, because she talked about the lost colony of Roanoke. So Roanoke, Virginia, and remember when we did the Black Nobility series, we told you how the Roanoke is named after a melanated Indian chief. He was the face of tobacco, literally. So all you have to do is go do a search, and you will see the tobacco statues, truly of melanated folks, in the colorful grass skirts with the tobacco pipe in their hand, because tobacco was big business, and Roanoke was the face of Chief Roanoke was the face of tobacco. So that also shows you that indigenous folks, the indigenous Indians, were also doing business. Not all of them, because that's what the internal war was between the indigenous folks in the Americas. Because you had some that did not want any part of these newcomers coming on the land. Okay, so I do want to be clear. The first faces that hit the shores of the Americas were melanated. Okay, let's be clear. I don't want to lose that fact because we have to deal in truth. Okay, so when they were coming on the shores, it was to do commerce, and some of the indigenous tribes did go into contract with them, did go into business with these different European kingdoms. Okay, so the Dutch, the French, the Brits, and then all of those European kingdoms, all melanated, let's be clear, all melanated black nobility sat on those thrones. Then they started fighting among each other for the different territories as well. So in this particular book, the author describes how Roanoke was just, it was hell. So hopefully I didn't go over this. If I went over this last week, just let me know and I'll move on. That's my bad. I should have marked off where I left off. It says America's sketchy, and I'm on page 12, America's sketchy understanding of the nation's colonial beginnings reflect the larger cultural impulse to forget or at least gloss over centuries of dodgy decisions, dubious measures, and outright failures. The lost colony of Roanoke was just one of many unsuccessful colonial schemes. Ambition-sounding plans for New World settlements were never more than ad hoc notions or overblown promotional tracks. The recruits for these projects did not necessarily share the beliefs of those principled leaders molded in bronze, the John Winthrops and William Penns, who are lionized for having projected the large destinies of their respective colonies. Most settlers in the 17th century did not envision their forced exile as the start of a city upon a hill. They did not express undying confidence in Penn's holy experiment. Dreamers dreamt, but few settlers came to America to fulfill any divine plan. During the 1600s, far from being ranked as valued British subjects, the great majority of early colonists were classified as surplus population and expendable rubbish. The colonists were a mixed lot. On the bottom of the heap were men and women of the poor and criminal classes. Okay, so we told you all, and this should be nothing new because Australia, to this day, the quote, quote, Caucasians in Australia their ancestors were prisoners. So the Brits opened up their jails, sent them to Australia. They start colonizing that particular land. Okay, so this should not be new information to us. As I say, it's the same tactics that are being used. I told you that King Louis did the same thing in France. He wanted to send folks over to the New World to see what was up there. He heard that it was a lot of riches and minerals and all of that. He couldn't get his soldiers to do it, so his brother Philippe told him, open up your jail, send them over there. All right. Among the unheroic transplant were roguish highwaymen, mean vagrants, Irish rebels. So the Irish rebels probably fall into the melanated Europeans that were being kicked out at that time as well. Okay, known whores and an assortment of convicts shipped to the colonies for grand larceny or other property crimes as a reprieve of sort to escape the gallows. Damn, so escape death basically. Not much better were those who fill the ranks of indentured servants. Okay, so a nice way of saying slavery, but we're going to go on. Who ranged in class position from lowly street urchins to former artisans burdened with overwhelming debt. Okay, so the term debt slavery, shit ain't nothing new. Nothing new at all. All right. They had taken a chance in the colonies, having been impressed into service and then choosing exile over possible incarceration within the walls of the overcrowded, disease-ridden English prison. Labor shortages led some ship captains and agents to round up children from the streets of London and other towns to sell to planters across the ocean. This was known as spiriting. Young children were shipped off for petty crimes. One such case is that of Elizabeth Little Bess Armstrong, sent to Virginia for stealing 2 spoons. Large numbers of poor adults and fatherless boys gave up their freedom, selling themselves into indenture servitude, whereby their passage was paid in return for contracting to anywhere from 4 to 9 years of labor. Their contracts might be sold and often were upon their arrival. Unable to marry or choose another master, they could be punished or whipped at will. Owing to the harsh working conditions they had to endure, one critic compared their lot to Egyptian bondage. Okay, so I'll pause in case somebody want to put something on it. If not, I'm going to continue on.
Well, I like to say that one of the most famous people that most people should recognize, this name was a criminal, and that was George Washington.
Yeah. She's gonna actually. She gets into our boy Benny Franklin too.
Yeah, and him too.
Shows, yeah, that's gonna be a couple of shows in, though, because I'm sure we're not gonna get to it tonight. But yeah.
It's kind of like really cut your own throat when you bring them over here, and our people give them guns. I mean, seriously. So I don't know about what they were thinking when they trusted them to lead the charge against England. That was crazy. So,
well, you brought it up early, but let's go on and get to it though. I'm rum. What they had in common, and we're gonna get to it later in the material bullshit. We're gonna get to it now since you brought it up. The thing that was in common was the indentured servants, and which would represent the white folks, in case you don't know what we're talking about, and the other enslaved melanated people, whether they were enslaved or whether or not they were working debt contracts that either they were tricked into, whatever the case may be. They bonded together to overthrow the rule of the Brit. The Brits. Right. That's what time that was about.
Well, that's that Dame de Verses where they were stealing the property, and the English was demanding taxes and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, it's all about the dollar that we sold our souls. Sold our, what did we sell? Everything.
Right. And not all of us, because again, the war was indigenous on indigenous. So meaning the indigenous on the European and Africans. So the indigenous on indigenous, we were fighting on, no, motherfucker, I ain't agree to none of that. Just like today, nothing's changed. You can literally, just based on people's ideology, you can almost pinpoint what their bloodline is. Brother Sean, I know you know where I'm going with this shit. You can already pinpoint. It's like, I'm not for that fuck shit. Don't come to me about no goddamn voting, none of that. I don't want to hear any of it. The system needs to go. Okay, so that was the indigenous folks that's like, I don't want that shit on my land. I don't want to be hunting animals for profit. It's wrong. It goes against natural law. That's not the way our people roll. Okay, and then other indigenous people, but look what we're getting out of it. We're getting so much out of it. Woo, woo, woo. Man, we started warring with each other, indigenous on indigenous, carving up the territory where that did not happen as much. It still happened a little bit, but not as much. Okay, and then you had the Brits coming over, getting a taste of the vast resources, and not just the Brits, Europeans and the Africans as well, those African kingdoms coming over, getting the taste of the wealth, started getting greedy, but because the indigenous folks entered into contracts with these particular kingdoms, they started taxing the fuck out of them, and then basically put them into a position of perpetual debt. Then that's when the war broke out with them. So very, very interesting stuff. All right. It says, to put class back into the story where it belongs, we have to imagine a very different kind of landscape, not a land of equal opportunity, but a much less appealing terrain where death and harsh labor conditions awaited most migrants. A firmly entrenched British ideology justified rigid class station with no promise of social mobility. Certainly, Puritan religious faith did not displace class hierarchy either. The early generations of New Englanders did nothing to diminish, let alone condemn, the routine reliance on servants or slaves. Land was the principal source of wealth, and those without any had little chance to escape servitude. It was the stigma of landlessness that would leave its mark on white trash from this day forward. All right. So I thought that was powerful that she brought up the land, because that's what we've been screaming about all along, because at the end of the day, it is about the land, because it's a spiritual thing. We are supposed to be the caretakers of a entity, Mother Earth, and everyone has their own sections to be caregivers of. Okay, and it's just interesting to me that indigenous melanated folks, for the most part, that's the last fucking thing on their mind. But I'm going to tell you something. That's not the last thing on the Caucasian mind, because they enter and understand the importance of land. Okay. I'm on page 18 now. Even before publishing Principal Navigations, the younger Heilig had sought royal favor. He prepared a treaty for Queen Elizabeth I and her top advisors, laying out his working theory of British colonization. Discourse of Western Planting, 1584, was pure propaganda designed to persuade the Queen of the benefits of American settlements. Sir Walter Raleigh had commissioned the work, hoping for the state financing he never received when he launched an expedition that led to the short-lived Roanoke colony off the Carolina coast. Okay, so that just shows you how far back that they have been trying to, the European kingdoms, the black nobility kingdoms, have been trying to get over here to colonize the land. So let me refresh your memory if you don't know who those particular European kingdoms are. They said, meaning King James said, he is the Roman. He's a Roman. He's a Hebrew. He's a Roman. Okay? So that Roman Empire, that's what it does. It goes to different indigenous folks' land and makes it their own. Okay, so it's no surprising that this same particular Roman kingdom was looking over to the Americas to do the same. It goes, attaching empty as a metaphor to a mysterious land served the legal purposes of the English state. Okay, so this goes back to this whole legal entity fiction that is a Roman thing. But anyhow, without recognized owners, the territory was available and waiting to be taken. Now that's interesting. Without recognized owners, the territory was available and waiting to be taken. Even for the bookish cleric Hylic, the trophy of conquest he used presented America as a lovely woman waiting to be wooed and wed by the English. Now, I can't fucking make that up. I'm just going to reread what he said, because I told you all that the women are the heirs of the land for the purpose of caretakers, but also because we reside on a woman entity, a woman body, okay? So these folks entered and overstood the metaphysics or the science behind it, okay? So I'm going to read that again. So for those that think that I'm all on the man-hating shit, no, it's not about the man-hating shit. I'm just telling the truth of what went on across the planet with a patriarch system. So,
saying that kind of cleans it up a little bit. I'm sorry. Like, I agree. that does. No. When you sit there and say we reside on a woman's body and metaphysics,
we do.
Then you can get the thing. So I'm not. I know. I mean, I'm just something I'm not gonna argue about. When you say it like that, it's a lot more reasonable to think about it like in an esoteric way, like oh, she's fucking crazy or something like that. No, I get it now. It actually clears a lot up.
Yeah, and you know, I do have to send shout out to the brothers that rock with me. You know, Brother Sean's been rocking with me for years. Brother 832, mad respect to him. Brother 646, mad respect to him. You know, Brother Lex. You know, even Brother Collide, mad respect to him, because you all you get it. That shows, you know, living in truth, and it shows a tremendous amount of maturity. Okay, because you have a lot of folks, and this is women too. A lot of folks running around thinking they're mature, but they're not, because when you are presented with the truth, you're presented with logic to back up the truth, you're presented with facts to back up the truth, and then it's validated with the spirituality aspect, but you continue to still want to justify your ideology. That's a sign of spiritual immaturity. Okay, so shout out to the men, you know, for seeing it for what it is. All right, so America, as a lovely woman waiting to be wooed and wed by the English. They would become her rightful owners and deserving custodians. It was all a fiction, of course, because the land was not really void. It was not really vacuum, void, and vacant, as the English conceived it. However, any land had to be taken out of its natural state and put to commercial use. Only then would it be truly owned. Okay? So, obviously, the Indian occupants were deemed unable to possess a true title. Combining ancient laws for convincing analogies, English colonizers classified the natives as savages, and sometimes barbarians. The Indians did not build what the English would acknowledge as permanent homes and towns. They did not enclose the workable ground inside hedges and fences. Under their tendency, the land appeared unbound and untamed. What John Smith, in his accounts of Virginia and later New England, described as very rank and weedy. The Indians lived off the earth as passive nomads. Profit-seeking planters and industrious husbandmen, on the other hand, were needed to cultivate the ground for its riches, and in doing so, impose a firm hand. All right, so I'll pause in case somebody want to put something on it. If not, go ahead.
They did lie quite a bit to get that determination, because that's not what Columbus said when he got here. That's not what the Spanish explorers, like Coronado and all those people found when they got here. They destroyed everything we had. So now they're going to go into lying, which is part of the Pilgrims' MO, to say that we were barbarians. And they forgot what they left, the squalor of England. So
right, because they have ran that shit all the way up in the ground. But back in the 1500s, they hadn't ran it in the ground yet. But by the time they got to definitely the late 1600s, 1700s, that shit was looking bleak. Because when you constantly terraform Mother Earth, you strip her down where she can't replenish.
Right.
So particular portion has to be barren until, and these folks, then they just move on to another territory. Okay? So that just once again proves that they're not in tune, and I would even go as to say not indigenous to the planet, period. But that's another story. All right. So, I'm sorry, go ahead, brother. Okay.
Sean.
Go ahead, Brother Lex.
Aren't our people like they have slaves? It's kind of black on black. Yeah, what you're saying? Like this is black British, the English, the black British.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about your phone. No.
Yeah, you were kind of breaking up. I think we heard like every 3 words you said.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
All right, sorry.
No worries.
But aren't these our forefathers as well? Like, again, like today we're mixed. We're the black British and the black Indian. But isn't this the black British playing tricks on the black Indian to take the land?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's be clear. Absolutely it is. Because, again, the white, quote, quote, Caucasians did not come to power until the late 1800s. If then, I'm really going to say it's the early 1900s, but absolutely. This was, quote, quote, black on black crime. Absolutely.
Yeah, if you're going to pinpoint it at that time, then the start is definitely going to be that around the North Carolina area that they call that massacre that occurred. You know, it's gonna be some nationwide event. It's gonna be titled under something, you know, because again the KKK is formed after that, and they're formed in Pulaski, Tennessee. My friend in Georgia will never let me forget this. He always brings that up. I just don't know, if that's the actual start date or not.
Gotcha.
That's all I have to say. Sorry about that. Go ahead, brother. Sorry.
Got you. Nope. You cool. Go ahead, Brother Sean. Brother Sean, are you there? Okay, there you go.
The whole thing is, as you see, when they took over, they started writing up rules.
Yes.
They say that they copied the Iroquois Constitution?
Yeah. That's what they say.
But that was a confederation of Moors. So
yes. Wait, say that again. As I sip my water, say that shit again.
That was a confederation of Moors. Exiled British nobility.
Yep.
So all of that was part of their plan to set up a system to take the land. Like they said, we didn't have no deeds or titles to anything.
Exactly.
We didn't need it.
Exactly.
So, I mean, all that's part of the hijack, period.
It is.
Because anytime they get to talking about those treaties and this, that, or the other, all those treaties go back to the Moors.
Yep.
Then we should look at this a different way. Then we should look at this as I did this to you, and to free yourself, the only way you're going to do it is through that paperwork. And that doesn't mean sign up for more. Just cut yourself free and walk into the forest. In fact, I'm going to go with you.
You need to. Mm-hmm.
But there's no other way to disassociate yourself with the ideals that they push that you're just property. As I say on my channel, they want a battle with a man in a courtroom. And this isn't to offend anyone or to deal with anybody else's ideal.
Right.
When they tell you, just like you read in that book, they strip you down so that you cannot receive your inheritance. Just like they took the Indian here off the land for their inheritance. So that just means that this is just like James said. This is the sowing of the prophecy of Israel and Judah being reunited. And it's just not under good terms. And like you stated earlier, you said a few things that were very biblical. It is going through this that redeems ourselves. Because again, if you go into slavery or your imagination is, or what we've been perceived to be slavery when we were the actual enslavers, then when we're free from this, what will we do? Will we look for more slaves?
Right.
Or will we do like these real Africans do and unite and build our own? And I wanted to come in then because the idea of them uniting in Africa to build their own is it seems like a spark of destruction because of all the things that have happened with Monsanto. There will be no food for those people, and they will ravage. And at least it starts there. That's all I have to say, sorry.
Yeah, that's just another
that
conversation. Go ahead,
my
brother.
thing is this. Who is supposed to recognize the paperwork? Them? I mean, either way it go, it's like
I hope so.
It's admitting that they have power over you, and you're going through their process to try and gain recognition with them. When they talk about stripping your inheritance, the only true inheritance you have is your freedom, because you don't own shit on mama. We don't own mama.
Mm-mm.
Your inheritance is your freedom and peace of mind. If you're going to let paperwork take your freedom and peace of mind, they can do whatever they want to do to your body. But your soul and your thoughts are controlled by you. So as long as you think that you're up under the paperwork, you are, because you choose to be. In war, somebody going to do to you what they want to do to you, irregardless to what a piece of paper says.
All right. Indeed. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brother Lex.
The idea that they can kill you means that for some reason they feel that they possess you. But with this paperwork, they don't possess you. That's the difference. With this paperwork, you can give it to the border guard, and you can never see them again. You can't do that right now. Zechariah chapter 11, verse 5 through 7. Whose oppressors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. Don't we see that every day?
Yeah.
Something about these prophecies are real.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Bible says, I don't know if you agree with what the word says, that's your own thing. It says to write, publish, and to subscribe. These things aren't talking about writing books. In the same chapter, it says to change your name to this or to that. It's telling you you're being held by a Babylonian bond certificate. This is all the New Testament truly is. It's just a military doctrine showing you that you're enslaved like we were 1,000 years ago by the same people. They've got the same statue in the water. It's just a woman now instead of a man. Everybody's seen that male statue that they compare to Statue of Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody's ever seen that cartoon picture of Nebuchadnezzar in all these pictures, in these different elements. The only statue that matches Statue of Liberty is the male that had its legs open that everybody passed through. That's a male that everybody passes through his genitals. That's a whore. It's the same thing we're dealing with here. It's poetic. And they don't have any choice. It's in their DNA to keep building the same stupid shit, just like it's in our DNA to keep doing the same stupid shit. When you understand what this takes, it takes getting your birth certificate, which you hold up to the light, you can see it's a government bond. Sending it right back to them. The birth certificate says a package arrived this day. All you're saying is there's two people signed on that birth certificate, and they say it's not a package, it's a baby. There ain't no better explanation of what witchcraft is. The office says it's a package. The two humans say it's another human. That's all it takes for freedom. And then presenting that with a new name in front of a judge with a letter saying, I own this now. That is what's holding back all melanated people. Nothing else. All these other people are gimmicks to just distract you because this land has no value anymore because it's been poisoned. They tell you themselves they dumped atropine into the river to turn their people gay. If you go gay, it's okay. You're just part of collateral damage. They're doing this to themselves. And as long as we say we're part of them, we're doing it to ourselves. If we don't get out of this system and start our own system, our children will be their children.
Okay.
And it's not against you. That's all.
No, we don't take it personal at all because, we enter and understand everybody's journey. So, it's all good. I get it. For me,
I grew from a point of not caring, and now I've changed.
Right.
There's something feels like we can correct this. I'm gonna mute myself. I'm sorry.
Nope, you're good. It's all good. It's all good. I just say again, no more systems, no more paperwork, because that was all unnatural and against nature anyway. I'm going to say and I'm going to say again, we all live on a live entity known as Mother. So all of these games that we are playing, because at the end of the day, that's what they are. They're games that folks are playing with each other to really, you really want to get deep about it, to exchange and extract energies from her and from each other. So at the end of the day, and when I say tell it to the plasma, I'm not just talking about Caucasian people. Let's be clear. I'm talking about everybody. You go stand outside and tell that shit to the plasma. Hold that paperwork up to the plasma, because at the end of the day, she has the last word. And if she feels she needs to wipe off everything that includes me off of her to heal, that's what she will do. So no amount of paperwork, no amount of poisoning, whatever the fuck they trying to do or planning to do within the next 100 and 200 years, she will have the last say-so. So, I yield. Okay. Here. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But it is indeed magic. It's wordplay to make us think that we're something that we're not. It's a program. If you are what you are and you're being that, you don't have to say anything. Period. If you're being who you are, it's seen. It shows in everything that you do. It's your very essence of being. Words are curses. Words put limits on you. When you go by a certain label, there's certain things that are written about that label. It's a certain character that you're supposed to play. Mm-hmm. And in every movie, each character has a beginning and an end. But with pure energy, we don't go nowhere. So before there was any written or spoken language, and we used telepathy, what language were we speaking in? I mean, labels. Who's to say a lion is a lion? Has anybody ever took the time to talk to that being? and find out who the fuck he really is.
What the fuck is she talking about, right? I never said that was my name.
That's why they be so mad all the goddamn time. Motherfuckers keep calling them lying. They like, who the fuck did you keep calling that shit? But that's neither here nor there. But I'm just saying, we know that man didn't set up and named everything. Mm-hmm. But you ain't created shit in order to name it or rename it.
Nope.
The bottom line is they exist without calling themselves shit. And everything they need to know is in their DNA, is in their bloodline.
Indeed.
Nothing that's written. It's your very essence that determines who you are. Your DNA. Not something that's written.
Speaking of that DNA, who are these people? We've already gone over it. So why would they have control over man when they have primate or human DNA? Why do we sit under their authority?
Who are you talking about? They. Who's the they? I just like for people to be specific.
We're talking about the conquerors. The conquerors.
Who are the conquerors?
The ones that came out of
That's where I want you to get. That's what I want you to get to.
Yeah, I mean, their DNA is that, and we talked about it, is of an animal combination or bestiality, and they have monkey men and all kinds of stuff, and Darwin said it. Their own scientists said it, that they have that DNA. So we're supposed to be on top and not underneath their rule.
Okay, so this is what I cannot wait till we keep getting deeper in this theory. Because here's the thing. Mm-hmm. We want to keep saying the white folks, and I'm going to keep saying, because when you speak of out of Africa, you're either talking about the Caucasians or the North Africans. So now, if you're talking about somebody else, let me know. I'll stop going with it. But the thing of it is, and what I keep saying, and what Brother Sean keeps saying, is that none of this exists without consent. That's the spiritual side. Let's get into what really happened. It was black on black crime first. Melanated on melanated crime first. On melanated crime, it's the battle of the bloodline. White folks are only holding that position because of black folks fucking put them in that position.
There it is.
So let's not gloss over this shit no more. I don't have a patience for it. You cannot convince me. You're not going to fucking convince me. The facts don't add up. The motherfucking truth don't add up. They don't sit in that seat of power unless it was sanctioned by a melanated person or people. So we got to start telling the truth. Don't tell half of the fucking truth. Tell it all. Now, that just shows the fact, the karmatic debt that particular group has fucking created for themselves for sitting in that seat of power, for doing the things that they have done and are doing, and holding those fucking titles that are not theirs. They have essentially cursed them and their bloodline unless they wake up and get their shit together. But let's not put all of that fuck shit on them. They were fucking given that seat of power. This is a battle of bloodlines, not color. Color, that shit is secondary. You have have to look at people for who they truly are, who their people are, what their fucking bloodline is. So, sorry, I know I went on the rant, but I'm going to keep doing that because I'm not going to play these games of black and white.
Matter of fact, I wasn't saying about black and white. That wasn't even the point. The point was, if we gave it to them, we got to find a way to take it back. You know, when somebody put a spell on you, you got to reverse that spell.
Indeed, but we didn't give it to them. That's where the Moors come in at.
That's
again.
all I'm trying to say.
They're the ones that had their harems was quote unquote white women. The Moors loved them, even though in the movies they try and portray the harem as what we call Indian women now over there in India, or, you know, an Arab woman with some type of melanation. But they have the paintings of the Moors with their white concubines.
Yep.
They taught them. They admit that. They enslaved them. Then they had the nerves to teach them.
The nerve.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because, I mean, what did you think was going to happen?
Right.
Once they started learning the game, you think they was just going to keep letting you put your foot on their throat?
Exactly. And motherfucking enslaving them. Exactly. Exactly. So I ain't giving nobody no motherfucking pass. I don't give a fuck about you supposedly having melanated skin. You the original. God damn it, if you dirty and you wrong, you dirty and you wrong. I'm looking at your bloodline. So, all right, here we go. Page 20. It was not just land that could be waste. People could be waste too. And this brings us to our most important point of embarkation. Hacklett's America required what he classified as waste people. The corpse of laborers needed to cut down the trees, beat the hemp for making rope, gather honey, salt, dry fish, dress raw animal hides, dig the earth for minerals, raise olives and silk, and sort and pack bird feathers. Okay? So I just made a note to myself when I was reading this back then, is that, so in other words, they were doing a little bit of terraforming as they were digging in the earth for the minerals, okay? Because that's what that bloodline do. They go across the planet digging in the body of a living, breathing entity for minerals, for commodity and profiting gain rather, which is all fake, it's false. This view of poverty, let me back up because it'll make sense. Where would these come from? The artesian, he felt, could be spread without weakening the English, spared without weakening the English economy. But the bulk of the labor force was to come from the swelling numbers of the poor and homeless. They were, in Hacklett's disturbing illusion, ready to eat up one another, already cannibalizing the British economy, idle and unused. They were waiting to be transported to the American land to be better put to use. The view of poverty was widely shared. One persistent project, first pronounced in 1580 but never realized, involved raising a fleet of 100-ton fishing vessels comprising 10,000 men, half of whom were to be impoverished vagrants.
The galley labor scheme was designed to beat the famously industrial Dutch at the fishing trade. I told you all this shit is all commerce. All commerce under that Roman ideology. Leading mathematician and geographer John Dee was another who imagined a maritime solution to poverty. In 1577, as the British Navy expanded, he proposed converting the poor into sailors. Others wished for the indigent to be swept from the streets one way or another, whether gathered up as forced laborers, building highways and fortifications, or herded into prisons and workhouses. London's Bridewell Prison was chartered in 1553, the first institution of its kind to propose a reformation of vagrants. Okay? By the 1570, more houses of corrections had opened their doors. Their founders offered to train the children of the poor to be brought up in labor and work so they would not follow in the footsteps of their parents and become idle rogues. In this sense, what Heilig foresaw in a colonized America was one giant workhouse. This cannot be emphasized enough. As the waste firm of America was settled, it would become a place where the surplus poor, the waste people of England, could be converted into economic assets. The land and the poor, exactly. The land and the poor could be harvested together to add to rather than continue to subtract from the nation's wealth. Among the first wave of workers were the convicts who would be employed at heavy labor, felling trees and burning them for pitch, tar, and soap ash. Others would dig in for mines for gold, silver, iron, and copper. The convicts were not paid wages. As debt slaves, they were obligated to repay the English Commonwealth for their crimes by producing commodities for export. In return, they would be kept from a life of crime, avoiding, in Heilig's words, being miserably hanged or packed into prisons to pitifully pine away and die. All right. Seeing the indigent as wastrels, as the dregs of society, was certainly nothing new. The English had waged a war against the poor, especially vagrants and vagabonds, for generations. A series of laws in the 14th century led to a concerted campaign to root out this wretched mother of all vice. By the 16th century, harsh laws and punishment were fixed in place. Public built in towns for runaway servants, along with whipping posts and cages, variously placed around London. Hot branding irons and ear boring identified this underclass and set them apart as criminal contingent. An act of 1547 allowed for vagrants to be branded with a V on their breast and enslaved. While this unusual piece of legislation appears never to have been put into practice, it was nonetheless a natural outgrowth of the widespread vilification of the poor. All right, so I'll pause because that damn sounds like slavery that they described in the Americas with the branding.
Good thing you said it. With the slave poles, it sounds like roots, right? That's why we can't find it here. Right.
Yeah.
all pulled in reverse.
Exactly. Slums enveloped London, as one observer remarked in 1608. The heavy concentration of poor created a subterranean colony of dirty and disfigured monsters living in caves. They were accused of breeding rapidly and infecting the city with a plague of poverty, thus figuratively designating unemployment a contagious disease. So I'm finna sip on my fucking water again. What does that sound?
So sounds like the project.
Mm-hmm.
Now, has anybody heard what's the guy's name? Conspiracy Dude Fury?
I've heard of him.
Conspiracy Dude Fury. He does a couple of videos on he does profile videos on some of the melanated leaders, like the leader that went to Central or South America, and everybody in his camp had a sexually transmitted disease.
Nature Boy. Nature Boy.
Oh yeah,
yes.
Nature Boy. Okay. Yeah.
He makes a statement.
Yeah.
He makes a statement at the end of the video that it was just profound. He said, they say that there's so many diseases in the black community, they already have a reason to come in and cage everyone. That's what he said at the end of one of his videos on Nature Boy. That blew my effing mind. Now they have a history to say, yes, this could happen. We should cage them because of all these untreated sexually transmitted diseases.
Wow. Well, I do know with reading that little excerpt, I'm like, oh, so you saying white people had a hood and they lived in motherfucking projects and they were saying that they were having too many babies and just spreading disease and not working. Interesting.
Ghetto. That's what they called it.
Right.
It's in their old music too. Ghetto.
Remember that one movie?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brother Sean.
Remember that movie with Liam Neeson? He played an immigrant, and they had gangs. I think it was the Gangs of New York or something like that.
Yeah, that movie.
And they were showing all that.
I think it was Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Wasn't that him?
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
Doesn't matter. Go ahead. Go ahead, Brother Sean.
I think Liam Neeson was in it also. I think he was his father or something, and he got killed.
Okay. I probably didn't know who he was back then when I saw it, but okay.
Yeah, that just goes to show you that in the slums, they're the ones that had the gangs and this, that, and the other, and they did call it the ghetto and all that type of stuff. All the things that's now attributed to quote-unquote black people
I'll be damned.
was attributed to them.
In that movie, they have the riot that they overthrow the blacks.
Right.
It's in that movie.
Oh, shit, now I got to go back and watch the damn movie again, y'all.
You had to bring up the solution.
Wow. Okay.
And we always talk about that picture. They go into the lodge, and you can see the black Indian on the wall, the painting of the black Indian on the wall in the lodge.
Yep.
What?
You sure right.
Now I'm going to watch that this weekend. Hell to the no. I'm straight going to watch that this weekend again.
Yeah, listen to the Irish politician talking about how he wants all the Irishmen to be police because they're not respected amongst the other nations. It's all in that movie.
I'm going to definitely go back and watch.
Day, Patty Wagon.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to go back.
You.
Nope, you good, brother. Okay, so it says, as masterless men, detached and unproductive, the vagrant poor would acquire colonial masters. For Hakluyt and others, a quasi-military model made sense. It had been used in Ireland in the New World, whether subduing the native population or contending with other European nations with colonial ambition. Fortifications would have to be raised, trenches dug, gunpowder produced, and men trained to use bows. Ex-soldiers formed one of the largest subgroups of English vagrants. Sailors were the vagrants of the sea and were often drawn into piracy. The style of warfare most common in the 16th century involved attacks on nearly impenetrable fortifications and required prolonged sieges and large number of foot soldiers. Each time war revived, I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
That's a Star Force. Impenetrable fortifications.
Yeah.
When they fight with cannonballs.
Mm-hmm.
See, y'all got the gold mine. I'm just viewing the gold.
It's those forts that still stand today on the coast. Absolutely.
All Navy.
Yep. Each time war revived, the poor were drummed back into service, becoming what one scholar has called a reserve army of the unemployed. Okay, so it goes after the miscarriage of Sir Walter Raleigh's Roanoke, Jamestown was Christian English's first infant child. Bidding the English patience with Jamestown, the poet John Donne sermonized in 1622, great creatures lie long in the womb. Jamestown was a slow, painful birth attended by scant confidence in its future. That year, a lopsided Indian attack nearly wiped out the entire population. The pervasive traumas throughout Jamestown early years are legend. Before 1625, colonists dropped like flies, 80% of the first 6,000 dying off. Several different military commanders imposed regimes of forced labor that turned the fledgling settlements into a prison camp. Men drawn to Jamestown dreamt of finding gold, which did little to inspire hard work. Not even starvation awoke them from the dream. A new group arrived in 1611 and described how their predecessor wallowed in sluggish idleness and bestial sloth, yet they fared little better. There were few lusty men in Virginia, to repeat Hakluyt's colorful term. It remained difficult to find recruits who would go out and fell trees, build houses, improve the land, fish, and hunt wild game. The men of early Jamestown were predisposed. Yeah, I can't make this shit up. I cannot make this shit up. The men of early Jamestown were predisposed to play cards, to trade with vile sailors, and to rape Indian women. A glass blower was sent to make colored beads, trinkets to sell to the Indians. This was Hakluyt's idea, but where were the husbandmen needed to raise food? All right, so John Rolfe, husband of Pocahontas, that shit pisses me off, but anyway, took these words to heart. In 1609, he introduced the strain of tobacco from Bermuda that Virginia settlers succeeded with, and tobacco quickly became the new gold, the trinket to wealth. its discovery led to a boom economy, bringing high prices for the filthy weed. Tobacco was at once both a boom and bane. Though it saved the colony from ruin, it stunted the economy and generated a skewed class system. The governing council jealously guarded what soon became the colony's most precious resources, laborers. Okay, and just real quick before I go on, I found out this week that it was required by the quote settlers that they had to plant hemp, the hemp plant, and they had to give some of the hemp plant back over to England and then as well pay taxes on it. So I found that very interesting as we're in the wake of the corporation, the United States, quote, taking a ban off of marijuana and all of these different hemp products coming out. So that kind of threw me back, but it made sense. Oh, wait a minute. These fuckers were profiting off of hemp back in the day? Oh, okay. But anyway, Virginia Company, let me see, make sure the governor and members of his governing council pleaded with the Virginia Company to send over more indentured servants and laborers who, like slaves, were sold to the highest bidder. Now I got to take a sip of water. Like slaves, isn't that slavery? What the fuck am I missing in that picture? Just a play on words because they were being sold. But okay. Indentured servants were hoarded, overworked, and their terms unfairly extended. Land was distributed unequally too, which increased the class divide. Those who settled before 1616, who had paid their own passage, were given 100 acres. After that date, new arrivals who paid their own way received only 50 acres. More important, from 1618, those who brought over an indentured servant received an additional 50 acres. The head right system, as it was known, allotted land by counting heads. More bodies in a planter's stable meant more land. Significantly, if a servant died on the voyage over, the owner of the indenture still secured all of his promised acreage. It paid to import laborers, dead or alive. Okay? So there's your slave trade, folks. It's fucking explaining to you this slave trade that was going on. So very little were coming from the African coast with, quote, quote, melanated black Africans. Most of it was coming from Europe and were, quote, quote, white indentured servants, okay? And when they described about giving out the land, that is described in those charters. That's why all you have to do is do your research, because every, quote, quote, things that we know today as states, and it was territories back then, was issued a charter by those different European black nobility. And in those charters, their boys in them or whoever they sent over were granted or given certain amount of acreage of land, okay? But the agreement was they had to produce on that land to pay taxes back to those particular kingdoms, okay? So this is how the fuck shit was going on. So you had the invaders, the black nobility, coming over, chartering stolen land, and then sending their boys and them over, granting them land, all for the purpose of paying back taxes to those particular kingdoms, okay? And then in the midst of it, they had to have people working the land because the indigenous, they were fighting or either ran them off or made agreements that the ones that was with it to profit off of it as well. So that's where the indentured servants term came in, which is really white slavery. Indentures were unlike wage contracts. Servants were classified as chattel as movable goods and property. Contracts could be sold, and servants were bound to move where and when their masters moved. Like furniture or livestock, they could be transferred to one's heirs. I'm going to take a sip of water. Again, what the hell does that sound like? Sounds like the story of African slavery.
Sounds like payback.
But I'll keep going. From 1618 to 1623, a good many orphans from London were shipped to Virginia. Most indentured servants who followed in their train were adolescent boys. As a small privileged group of planters acquired land, laborers, and wealth, those outside the inner circles were hard-pressed to escape their lower status. Those who did become poor tenants found that little had changed in their condition. They were often forced to do the same work they had done as servants. A sizable number did not survive their years of service, or as John Smith laminated in his 1624 General History of Virginia, this deer bought land with so much blood and cost hath only made some few riches and all the rest losers. Among the more insidious practices in the colonies, wives and children were held accountable for their husbands' or fathers' indentured period of labor. After the natives attacked in 1622, a colonist named Jack Dixon was held by them in captivity for 10 months. When she returned to Jamestown, she was told that she owed 150 pounds of tobacco to her husband's former master. Unable to pay, she would be forced to work off her dead husband's unmet obligations. She appeared to the governor, writing that her treatment was identical to the slavery, and the author put slavery in quotation, she experienced among cruel savages. John Smith acknowledged in his general history that fatherless children were left in little better condition than slaves, for if the parents die in debt, their children are made bondmen till the debt be discharged. The leaders of Jamestown had borrowed directly from the Roman model of slavery. Abandoned children and debtors were made slaves. That's exactly what we're in.
I'm sorry for interrupting.
Nope, because you were going where I was going to go anyway. That's exactly it. And so just to refresh the family members, remember the Venetians, the black nobility Venetians, were the creators of the banking system, which still reigns true to this day. It's the same system. It's the same exact system. And quote, quote, Caucasian white people did not build it. They could not have built it. They didn't have enough knowledge to build a system like that, and they weren't in power. All right. The colony needed to shred its image as a penal colony and to plant firmer roots. It needed more than tobacco. It needed herds of cattle, fields of crops, and improved relations between masters and servants. Most of all, it needed many more marriageable women. In 1620, the Virginia Company sent to the colony 57 young, handsome, and honestly educated maidens. Over the next 3 years, 157 more women made the crossing. They were thought of as emissaries of a new moral order. Company records hint at something else as well. The greatest hindrance to noble work rested on want of comfort. Men deserve to live comfortably. The transportation of female cargo would tie and root the planters' mandies to Virginia by the bonds of the wives and children. Sexual satisfaction in heirs to provide for would make slothful men into more productive colonists. All right, so I'm going to pause her right quick. I'm going to jump over to the next book. He comes out and sorry, go ahead, Brother Sean. Go ahead.
I mean, I can't get off words. Penal colony.
Uh-huh.
I mean, penitentiary.
Penis.
Women get penetrated. Mm-hmm. Women
Penis.
get penetrated. Mm-hmm.
So
the demasculation of men, the total tearing down of everything masculine and defiant about you. And
it's deep.
And the killing part about it, the Moors take credit for it all. And nobody seems to see anything wrong with it. Colonization.
But all this part, it's not told. Or it's not true. Because I hear that
colonization, too. Right. Colonization is wrong regardless to what your quote-unquote color is.
Exactly. I don't give a fuck. Exactly.
And what's ironic is, quote-unquote, black people want to claim slave history, and quote-unquote, white people been doing everything they can to remove themselves from it.
Yep, sure do. They like, fuck that.
But that's what quote-unquote black people want to claim. They just want to have the most horrific experience that they never had because it was written and told to them. Did that happen to them?
Yep.
I digress.
Indeed. Go ahead, sis. I know you had something you want to put on it.
I just was listening to how they treated the women, and I thought about, this must be the start of prostitution. And
baby, I ran across an article this week that talked about prostitution of women back in the early 1900s. But go ahead, sis.
Well, it's like Gunsmoke and all those Western movies with Kitty and in the saloons and the girls that get paid for. Yeah, I'm like, oh my goodness. So they wanted to make the men work a little harder by giving them a little bit of. So anyway, it's kind of interesting that they wanted the high class, but then they want to bring women in as workers too, because if your husband died, you had to pay the penalty for him dying with your body or with your labor, whatever.
With your labor,
so
exactly.
They had a little bit going on back there.
Absolutely. Okay. Go ahead.
If you send a bunch of men over to colonize a country, and then, of course, at that point, once you win, there's no women. If you're sitting there saying, hey, if it's black on black, and they're saying, hey, these dumb Indians, I don't want an Indian woman, I want a European woman, like you were reading from that other book. It starts to paint a picture. Again, if the Homestead Act is in 1850, this is the United States opening up to black Europeans, not white people. The white people are still their slaves. The state has taken over, and the white people are their slaves. So when you see the Hateful Eight, this makes sense now. When the black woman is running the haberdashery, Mimi's haberdashery, and the white villains come in, the white woman singing the song, in my own country, I was a criminal. I was sent here on a work ship, and I got to this land, and the first thing I started doing was murdering people. So when you look at it, they're trying to tell you, this guy that makes this movie, he's trying to tell you that black people had these cities, and they were being robbed by white gangs. And they call the gangs. Oh shit! What they call the gangs? Oh, I can't remember the name. I touched on it briefly, but it's all in that movie.
They have purple gangs.
Because the black people in this movie own the businesses, and the white people in this movie are the robbers. At the time when it should be the other way around.
Right.
So they're putting it in front of us all the time, eventually. See, it's just like bringing up John Levi, right? It matches biblical scripture. Eventually, out of their own mouths, they go say, our fathers taught us lies. When you think about it, do they know? Meaning the poor guy that lives next to you, across from you, in your neighborhood, even in the suburb, do they know that there were slaves before? I'm sure the KKK teach that they were slaves before, but not every white person
I could see them I could see them teaching it, absolutely, because that's been used as an excuse too on why the information isn't true. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so this is wrapping it all up into a nice package.
Exactly, and it's interesting that you brought up about the white-on black crime, because it was they're starting to in the media talk about the Tulsa, Oklahoma, when that they bombed, meaning the U.S. corporation bombed that city of melanated people because they had Black Wall Street. It was a lot of concentrated wealth. That's not the first time I've heard that story, and if you're not familiar with it, go look it up. Then it hit me. God damn.
If you overthrow, I'm sorry. I thought you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That was, first of all, that particular concentrated wealth came from the melanated indigenous that had moved to Oklahoma. So in other words, that took the deal and started setting up their own thing. And so the U.S. corporation was like, oh, no, we can't have them rise. Oh, hell to the no. We can't have them rise again. So it was even deeper than what people think that bombing was all about. So I'm sorry. Go ahead on, Brother Lex.
No, I mean, you got a great point. Obviously, the wealth had grown so massive that you cannot say, I just overthrown these people and they already made more money than us as a corporation overnight. So when you look at Greenwood and Rosewood, and notice how all of our people name these cities after woods, because this is what they use to turn their profit, wood, furniture and homes. So, that's all it has.
Yep, indeed. We're about to go in overtime. If you want to join us, if you're in the chat room, you have to dial in to 929-477-3858, 929-477-3858. We're going into overtime in less than 2 minutes. If you're not going to join us, thank you again. If you're not going to join us in overtime, thank you again for joining us. All right, so I'm going to switch real quick.
I'm sorry,
go ahead, sis.
Okay, you said the U.S. corporation bombed them. So are we talking about the U.S. corporation may have been a gangster group, like they have the tendency now to operate in a gangster style of monopoly over the money systems in other countries?
Yeah, you could say it's a gang. I don't have no issue with that.
Yeah. Well, Chicago had a big gang called the Purple Gang, and they was all young Europeans that was robbing folks in Chicago. I don't know if Lex was referring to one of those like that, but yeah. So they were actually not an organized situation. I guess they came into the 13 colonies because they came into the 13 colonies for commerce. What kind of commerce is that? Because, they only mentioned a few people who had commerce, and the rest of it was what, gangsters?
Interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. And if you think about, okay, so now we go there. This just popped in my mind. I'm finna bring it in that same light. Why do in the quote hood or ghetto today, most of, or even if you're in prison, when you folks join a gang, why are they joining those gangs? Isn't it for survival and protection? Yeah, that's exactly what it's for. So, all right, I rest. So this the next book I wanna. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the military definitely is a gang. If you look at
absolutely.
any gang, you got a group of people who look at each other as brothers. All we got is us against the world. They take a pledge and an oath to that particular organization, which the whole gang thing was started by the FBI anyway.
Yes.
So that's basically their thing to begin with, the mob, how they was running the union, politics, religion.
Right.
Because the mobsters, they were Catholic. They was all about the Pope.
Right.
Everybody who comes here and quote unquote becomes citizens to get into the military, pledge an oath to this corporation.
Yep.
And you know the rest.
Indeed. Brother Lex, did you have something?
Yeah, you guys had brought up the guys as monsters earlier, and it really got me excited. I was going to start blabbing my mouth, but she's got a point with what she said earlier about the African monsters. And when you look at this stuff, especially the Wudosi, the African wild man of history, and we see those images of the Moors versus the wild man, which is the Wudosi. the 70 Nations panel came out and it made a statement within their great speech of bullshit. But the statement that stood out was, you turned monsters into men and men into monsters.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the part that I brought up last week, I always try to forget them, but I can't forget them, is the French. And if we look at the French, again, these people are free because I believe you're eventually going to read in one of these books that the French started the war and they freed these slaves and most likely gave them some kind of contractual obligation over the corporation at that point, and that's probably what we're dealing with. They call it a forced merger or a forced takeover.
Hostile takeover. Yeah.
Right. Yes. I think that's what we're dealing with.
Hostile takeover. That makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Damn. Very, very good point, brother. All right. The next book I want to introduce is called They Were White and They Were Slaves, The Untold History of Enslavement of Whites in Early America, Michael A. Hoffman II. Now, he comes out the again. So get ready. So if you sensitive or whatever, I don't know, you might want to switch off. Because I couldn't even get past, even the introduction. All right. They were of two sorts, for such as were brought over by masters of ship to be sold as servants, such as we call them, my dear, she says, but they are more properly called slaves. So he's given a quote off of Daniel Defoe's. This is a history of white people that has never been told in any coherent form, largely because most modern historians have, for reasons of politics or psychology, refused to recognize white slaves in early America as just that. Today, not a tear is shed for the sufferings of millions of our own enslaved forefathers. Okay, peep that. And he said forefathers. Peep game, because he's accurate. Okay? So, for the Caucasian people who have fantasies of Washington, Franklin, all of them, they were indentured servants. Right? 200 years of white slavery in America have been almost completely obliterated from collective memory of the American people. Who wants to be reminded that half, perhaps as many as 2/3 of the original American colonists came here not of their own free will, but kidnapped, shanghaied, impressed, duped, beguiled, and yes, in chains. We tend to gloss over it. We prefer to forget the whole sorry chapter. So he's quoting someone, Elaine Kendall from the LA Times, September 1st, 1985. A correct understanding of the authentic history of the enslavement of whites in America could have profound consequences for the future of races. We cannot be sure that the position of the earliest Africans differed markedly from that of the white indentured servants. The debate has considerable significance for the interpretation of race relations in American history. Eugene Genovese, Jordan Rowe, The World of Slaves Made. Most of the books on white labor in early America are titled with words like white indentured servitude, white bond servant, white servants, etc. It is interesting that white people who were bound to a condition of what became, in many cases, permanent chattel slavery unto death are not referred to as slaves by establishment academics. with the massive concentration of educational and media resources on the Negro experience of slavery, the unspoken assumption has been that only blacks have been enslaved to any degree or magnitude worthy of study or memorial. The historical record reveals that this is not the case. However, white people have been sold as slaves for centuries. White slavery in ancient and medieval Europe. Among the ancient Greeks, despite their tradition of democracy, the enslavement of fellow whites, even fellow Greeks, was the order of the day. Aristotle considered white slaves as things. The Romans had no compunction against enslaving whites, who they termed a thing. In his agricultural writings, the 1st century BC Roman philosopher Varro labored white slaves as nothing more than tools that happened to have voices. Cato the Elder, discoursing on plantation management, proposed that white slaves, when old or ill, should be discarded along with worn-out farm implements. Julius Caesar enslaved as many as 1 million whites from Gaul, some of whom were sold to the slave dealers who followed his victorious legions. So he's quoting from William D. Phillips, Slavery from Roman Times to the Early Transatlantic Trade. In AD 319, the Christian emperor of Rome, Constantine, ruled that if an owner whipped his white slave to death, he should not stand in any criminal accusation if the slave dies. And all statutes of limitation and legal interpretations are hereby set aside. The Romans enslaved thousands of early white inhabitants of Great Britain who were known as angels, from which we derive the term Anglo-Saxon, which that's not true, but he don't know that, as a description of the English race. In the 16th century, Pope Gregory I witnessed blonde-haired, blue-eyed English boys awaiting sale in a slave market in Rome. Inquiring of their origin, the Pope was told they were angels. Gregory replied, non-angli, said angli, not angels, but not angles, but angels. When the Franks conquered the Visigoths in southern Gaul, huge number of whites entered the slave market. After Charlemagne's conquest of Saxony, during which many pagan Saxons were enslaved, he set up a network of parish churches. To provide for the maintenance of the priests and the church, those living in the parish were to donate a house and land, as well as a male and female Saxon slave to the church for every 120 people in the parish. So that's William Phillips. So I do want to point out once again that the black nobilities, they also include the Saxons, the House of Saxon. Okay, so he's off with that whole Anglo-Saxon term. Okay, and we do know the Romans were the black nobility as well. So I just want to point that out. All right, let me take a swig. Because here's going to be some. So go ahead while I take my swig.
So you got black church leaders at that time, right? So the black church leader is going around, and he sees his little boys for sale, and the man is like, "Hey, buy my Anglos," and he's saying, "No, those aren't Anglos, those are little angels."
Right. Right. This shit is crazy.
What do the priests do today? What they famous for on the news? It's raping boys, right? Like,
right.
Really just paying us
right.
back. I'm
right.
sorry.
No, because, I mean, just remember who held the seat of power, and that includes the priest.
The seat.
Right, as well. That those were melanated folks, because remember that the Catholics and the Protestants were at war. Those different kingdoms, they were at war, but they were still melanated kingdoms. All right, so here we go, Brother Sean. You know people finna be pissed, because now we getting into the Muslim Arab. Here we go, y'all. It's gonna be some hurt feelings, but it is what it is. Arabs and the traffic in white slaves. The trade in white slaves was one of the few sources of foreign exchange for Western Europe powers in a period when the East produced the goods that Europeans could not procure elsewhere. The sale of white slaves to Asia and Africa was one of the few sources of gold for European treasurers. From the 8th to the 11th century, France was a major transfer point for white slaves to the Muslim world, with Rouen being the center for selling of the Irish and Flemish slaves. At the same time that France was a transfer point for slaves to the Muslim world, Italy was occupying much of the same position. Phoenicians were selling slaves and timber across the Mediterranean. The slaves were usually Slavs brought across the Alps. The Venetians were the earliest successful Italian sea traders, and because profits on slave trade with the Muslims were lucrative, they resisted efforts to stop them. In return for their exports of timber, iron, and white slaves, they brought in Oriental luxury products, mainly fine cloth. Okay, so he's quoting out of William Phillips. The stereotypes from establishment consensus history is of the Muslim slaver herding chained blacks through the desert. In fact, for 700 years, until the fall of Muslim Spain, those being herded were first and foremost overwhelmingly white. Before the 10th century, the Muslims generally bought Christian Europeans as slaves. By the 10th century, Slavs became the most numerous imported group. During the late Middle Ages until the fall of Granada in the late 15th century, most slaves of the Muslims were Christians from the northern kingdom. I'll pause in case somebody want to put something on it.
Yeah.
I got next.
Go ahead, brother.
They sit up and talk about Granada and what they did
the
over
Moors ruled for 700 years. Right.
All righty then. I'll let history speak for itself.
Right. But no, these are lies though. Okay, so you just want to cherry pick. You want to cherry pick the part the Moors ruled for 700 years, but fuck the rest of it, right? Oh, okay then. Oh, okay. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brother Lex.
Can you read that last part again?
Yeah, okay, thank you. I didn't want to motherfucker rub it in, but goddamn it, it's going to be rubbed it in. Before the 10th century, the Muslims generally bought Christian Europeans as slaves. By the 10th century, Slavs became the most numerous imported group. During the late Middle Ages until the fall of Granada in the late 15th century, Most slaves of the Muslims were Christians from the northern kingdom. I'll read the first part. The stereotype from establishment consensus history is of the Muslim slavers herding chained blacks through the desert. In fact, for 700 years, until the fall of Muslim Spain, those being herded were foremost overwhelmingly white. Go ahead, Brother Les.
See, this is very interesting. I was reading about the Catholic Church and about this Christianity and slavery with the Muslim world, and what they used to argue was that when the slave was recognized as a person is when he was changing his spirituality and to Christianity and was acknowledged. Again, Inquisition is going to be freaking black men, telling other black men, accept Christ or die.
Right.
Eventually they get overthrown and somebody, carries the torch. But this shit is hilarious. So, it's just, by examining the church is showing, when, because these people it's just the army of the church. But it's going to boil down to this because the church is taking in all the property as if it's the owner.
Right.
And, that's all. Sorry.
I know. Nope. It's all good. It's all good, brother. It's all good.
So they're using religion to get out of slavery. So in 1983, Congress put the Bible on the law, right? And this is the point that, there's a couple of points of this whole conversation that I would never have sat and said, oh, let's make these points or anything like that, because this isn't pre-anything. But the point that is being brought up is the idea that some of these people aren't really people. And when you deal with that law that Congress pushed that, the Bible's real, those things can't have domination over you. So, again, there's a way to win legally, and this was actually a statement that somebody brought up tonight, and my hands were busy when it was said, and I was just like, wow, that's interesting, because again, now it's not hard to say, let's DNA test everyone and find out who's human and who's man, who's got animal and who doesn't. Why would I go to court for somebody with goddamn Neanderthal in their fucking blood to decide my fucking future? Excuse my French. I just.
Nope. It's all good. I cuss all the time.
This shit burns me out. It burns me up inside.
I understand. All right. So again, this book is They Were White and They Were Slaves: The Untold History of the Enslavement of Whites in Early America by Michael A. Hoffman II. In the vast lands of the Eastern European states from the 8th to the 12th century, there was a well-developed slaving network. Slavs and Finns, or slaves, indiscriminately by the Muslims, entered the Muslim world by these Caspian and Black Sea routes. So again, he's quoting from William Phillips' book. The fate of the hundreds of thousands of white slaves sold to the Arabs was described in one Spanish text as atrocissima, or meaning most atrocities and harsh. The men were worked to death as galley slaves. The women, girls, and boys were used as prostitutes. White males had their genitals, now I can't make this shit up, y'all. I'm not making this shit up. White males had their genitals mutilated and castration attempts, bloody procedures of incredible brutality, which most of the white men who were forced to submit did not survive. Judging from their high prices, white eunuchs commanded throughout the Middle Eastern slave markets. Escape from North Africa and the Middle East was almost impossible. And those white slaves who were caught trying to flee were punished by having their nose and ears cut off or worse. So I'll pause. Escaping from North Africa in the Middle East, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, this our story?
Yeah, exactly.
Pinta.
To them, yeah. Yeah. Early Muslim texts provide insight into the extent to which the Arabs identified Europeans with slavery, classified white slaves as animals, and even produced learned racist disquisitions on the supposed merits of emasculated East European slaves. In his 9th century treatise on beasts, the Book of Animals, the Muslim scholar Jahiz writes, another change which overcome the eunuch of two slaves of Slavic race who are twins, one castrated and the other not. The eunuch becomes more disposed towards service, wiser, more able and apt for various problems of manual labor. All these qualities you find only in the castrated one. On the other hand, his brother continues to have the same native to poor, the same lack of natural talent, the same imbecility common to slaves, and incapable for learning a foreign language. So he's quoting Charles Berlinden, The Slave in Medieval Europe. All right, here we go. Whites were also enslaved in Russia, and I do not refer here to serfdom, which was a later development. Knowledge of the existence of slavery in early modern Russia is not widespread. Many people know of the existence of serfdom and confuse the two. The white Russian Muscovites were enslaved both by northern European raiders as well as massive slave catching operation launched by the Mongols and the Ottoman Empire.
Yep.
Russians who also enslaved each other to such an extent that in I'm reading that wrong, y'all. I'm sorry. All right. White Russians were enslaved both by northern European raiders as well as massive slave catching operations launched by the Mongols and the Ottoman Empire. Russians also enslaved each other to such an extent that in 1571, an official slave chancellery was established, which formally codified white slavery as a Russian institute. Viking slavers. In the 9th century, I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
Ain't that the Tartarians?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
You know the Khazar people?
Mm-hmm.
Ones that came to power in Germany?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. Viking slavers. We told you don't nobody get no fucking pass. In the 9th century, the Vikings sold tens of thousands of whites to the Arabs of Spain, according to Michael Wood's book In Search of the Dark Ages. An Arab traveler of the time who came to Spain remarked on the great number of European slaves in harems and in the militia. The palace of the Emir of Cordoba in particular, I can't make this shit up, y'all. I laughed when I read it then, and I'm fucking laughing now. because sis, you said it earlier, and I think you said it, Brother Lex. The palace of the Emir of Cordoba in particular had many white girls. Of these unfortunate people, the Vikings were undoubtedly a major source of supply. The Arabs in Spain saw the long-term potential of this trade and as early as the 1840s sent a diplomat mission to Scandinavia to put it on an organized basis. The most westerly component of the early medieval slave trade in Europe was the British Isles. In the 11th century, the Vikings were active slave traders in Ireland. From Ireland, the Vikings took the slaves to be sold in Muslim Spain and Scandinavia, and even to be transported into Russia. Some may have been taken as far as Constantinople and the Muslim Middle East. The Norwegians.
Wait,
okay.
sis.
Sorry, go ahead.
Now you see what's going on. Now you see why the dude went and slaughtered all the Irish men. See, the Irish just telling everybody, hey, it's okay, come to our land. You can be free, all that shit. So they go to Black Ireland, and the Black Irish are waiting for the Black Germans to come and haul these people off to Russia.
That makes sense.
It's a bait and switch.
Yep.
If you look at Britain and England as a bait and switch to build a navy, it's like they're doing the same. It's like we did the same thing to them there. They just, man, this is. All right, I'll yield on this.
Yep. No, very, very good point. Excellent point. Let me see. Oh, the Norwegian slave traders was an important enough figure to appear in the 12th century tale of Tristan. Iceland literature also provides numerous references to raiding in Ireland as a source for slaves. Norwegian Vikings made slave raids not only against the Irish and Scots, who are often called Irish in Norse sources, but also against Norse settlers in Ireland or the Scottish Isles, or even in Norway itself. Slave trading was a major commercial activity of the Vikings, the Viking Age. It says the children of white slaves in Iceland were routinely murdered in mass. So then he gets to white slavery in the America, in early America. David Bryan Davis, writing in the New York Review in October 11, 1990, states, as late as the 14th and 15th centuries, continuing shipment of white slaves, some of them Christians, flowed from the booming slave markets on the northern Black Sea coast into Italy, Spain, Egypt, and the Mediterranean islands from Barbados to Virginia. Colonists showed few scruples about reducing their less fortunate countrymen to a status little different from that of chattel slaves. The prevalence and suffering of white slaves, serfs, and indentured servants in the early modern period suggests that there was nothing inevitable about limiting plantation slavery to people of African origin. I'm sorry, go ahead, sis.
Well, I know you said it, but they said they considered the white man as an animal. And then we look at the DNA of the Arabs, and who are they? Like, so is what?
Scadians. Iranians or Scadians.
Scadians. And then each group of people are trading each other. It's really kind of crazy, but
it's very crazy.
They have the books and some documents that they had. What the Spanish was trading slaves for like 300 years across the planet, but somebody wrote that because they ain't even talk about this part of the situation. It's
Of
like
course not.
nobody was safe. Nobody was safe. You know, if they had guns or whatever they were using to capture people, nobody was safe.
Right.
You couldn't even go out in your field without a gun to protect yourself against slavers, obviously, because it was a good business. So, wow.
Right, and I just found it interesting. I'm sorry, go ahead, Brother Sean.
Well, I mean, they've always told it. They've always said that it was all about commerce.
Oh, yeah, well.
They've never done that. It's still about commerce to this day.
Today.
That's
and
why
the Catholic Church really got into it. The Catholic Church was making bang-up bucks over that kind of stuff. You know?
I mean, the prisons are privatized now.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, look at Bob Barker. He owned them little plastic rubber shoes or whatever that all the prisons got, the jumpsuits. He owned the company to do them, and he got the contract for all the prisons.
Well, you know, Ritz Dye Company has it too. They're traded on the open stock market. So
exactly. So it's still all about commerce. They still enslaving people.
But you
and
know
it don't matter what your color is.
Newsom came over here and is shutting down some of the federal prisons here in California. So they're trying to privatize them. That's what they're trying to do.
That lady messed up when she when they did that election shit, and they brought out that there was a person that was proven that was still behind bars, that was innocent, and she did nothing. That goes against the oath, and the higher people says she got to be broken free. That's why she not running there no more. She's trying to go bigger, and that's the whole thing. You know, they're trying to make this all into what she just read, a penal system where everybody has a record. You know?
Right. They do. Especially in California, most of our people have records.
Yeah.
So that means when you get on jury duty, and there are melanated people there on the jury, you can't even stay because most of the people in your family have people who have records. So the jury is the jury of your peers of what? They don't have them.
Right.
Well, it is if you look at it at time. They were in the position in now.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're being taught up here would be. You're equal. We're talking equal in status over history, and they're not being forward with this or honest. That's why it is very
they're not being honest. Yep.
I promise this feels like payback.
It is, and as the honesty
it is payback, and it's like we got caught up in the crossfire, and that's why I said it's deeper, and why I feel that's why people in the Americas, meaning the melanated people, that our blood is mixed with the Europeans and the Americans, because we are the ones that have to clean it up and break the generational curses. So absolutely, because that's just the way the laws of karma work. Absolutely. But if we're not going within to see it for what it is and want to project that same treatment back on to the quote, quote, white people today, then you're just continuing a fucking cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So what? We're going to enslave the white folks and then let that play out for a little couple of 100 years and then turn around and do it to get the fuck out of here. Oh, no.
Okay, so that's another thing that I thought of. So you see the little brothers up in New York, they be yelling at people, we're going to enslave your daughters and your children, right? I mean, is it not what you just read? in their hearts, they're saying that stuff. They're saying, hey, the Bible's saying, and they're going 10 extra miles. I'm going to put your wife in a dog chain, your children, right? I mean, just to say,
and that's just trying to repeat another cycle to keep, in essence, keep all of us in a lower state vibration. But now we're supposed to be at the point where, like, whoa, wait a minute. No, fuck all of that. Fuck all of that. I'm right to the source. I'm going to bloodline. You motherfuckers gotta go. Point blank, period. I don't give a fuck whether you Caucasian, you melanated, you dirty, you not in tune with nature. Get the fuck out of here. You're gone. And that's why I'm so strong with melanated men with this ideology. We're going to rule. We're going to be great again with the Moorish Empire. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit.
Yeah, throw that out the door.
It will never happen. You will never get the opportunity to rule again.
Not like that.
Information.
Period. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother Lex.
Oh no, I just said, where are they with this information? I mean,
they were running to America. See, when they got ran out of Spain, they said after 711 years of ruling.
Right.
Well, that's fair. I mean, she read that last week how they were pushed into Ireland and the Irishmen were slaughtered, and the other people were to get to a certain location by a certain time, or if they were caught on the land, they were considered enemy of state or something like that. So I mean, I get that. It's just it's fascinating how this is building up to be. But it never sat around guessing, half this stuff. You can't find it in your mind. It has to be read. It's amazing, and I really
it's deep.
I want to say thank you, because all of you have allowed me to take part in this, and this is actually something special. Nobody wants to talk about this. Nobody wants to talk about this in a group. When this is the subject that needs to be talked about, everybody diverts the subject to some kind of bullshit philosophy to keep people's minds trapped.
Yep.
So this is amazing. Good job. Pat yourselves on the back.
Oh, peace, brother. Peace. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you to the family for hanging in there with us. Thank you. Special shout out to 832. It was him that planted the seed with the one book to go to the other side of the story. So just thank you to all, and thank you to, of course, my co-hosts, Brother Sean, Sis Sandra. They rock with me always through my craziness. And, thank you to you, Brother Lex, as well, for bringing your perspective. All right, so I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brother Sean. Yes.
I just want to say to the family, so they don't get shit twisted. I fucks with Lex Will. I've been a subscriber of his for years.
Yeah,
I
for
fucks
a
with
minute.
the brothers.
Yep. For
so
a minute.
Don't get shit twisted.
Exactly. We've even done some of his work on this show. We featured some of his videos on this show.
A lot of people have different perspectives. Nobody's perspective is truly wrong. If we didn't know any of this stuff, it'd be totally different. So it still doesn't say just because we know this about paperwork or this about history that we have to do the paperwork to get out of it or anything like that. And and I don't take it one way or the other, because I've had long talks with people I consider that I respect, and you're actually one of the people that I respect. I just don't talk to you privately. That this is going to happen whether anybody likes it or not. They don't want to lose power, and we don't want to stay in this condition. But it's a coin, and one side has to fall on top. And if we look at this as a perspective of prophecy, it says that we would become the tail and they would be the head, and in the end, we would become the head again and they would become the tail again. And so it's really about what we're going to take away from this, in my opinion, because tomorrow there's going to be some dumb nigga talking about Africa and not from the perspective of what we call truth.
Right.
And then it's going to be about what do we do about it then. I can sit here and argue with this motherfucker, or I can ignore him and keep on moving to the next piece of the puzzle. And that's the whole thing. If you watch, I don't mean to keep being long-winded, if you watch National Treasure,
yeah,
the star does not sit there and fight with the thugs. He keeps trying to take the next step and separate where the information's going from the people that's chasing him.
Right.
So, not to compare it to some fictional shit, but our ancestors did this. Our ancestors set this up. When we get to it, their ancestors just overthrew us. So we have a choice about where we want to be. If we want to regain our Indian mentality, or if we want to maintain our Judean Roman heritage,
right? Right.
It's the Israelite Indian versus the mentality of the Judean Roman. So at the end of the day, it's the same damn blood, because it's been forced to mix with each other because everybody forgot who they were. Nobody can tell the next guy who's going to make it into heaven, because nobody knows whose ancestor was what when they slept with each other and made us a while back. So all we can do is move forward with the intelligence that we provided for everybody on our own will.
Indeed.
All I can say is, man, look at what you've done for everybody. These videos sit up here, and anybody can go back to something that you said a year ago and be shocked and stunned, because nobody else on the face of this fucking planet has said some of the things that you said in broadcast, Sean. So I don't take offense to any of this shit. At the end of the day, if it was paperwork that I thought was keeping me here, I would finish that shit 2 weeks ago. And I'd be like, hey, everybody, look at this shit. It was that easy.
Right.
Something curses us to sit stagnant
exactly
until a moment. And when that moment happens, you're fucking right. All right? Whether it's plasma, fire, it doesn't matter. Paper can't survive plasma, can't survive fire.
Right.
It's not going to survive water. It really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's gonna. Once we're in a system where paper rules. Once this pen is broken, it's back to the sword. So,
ow. Well said.
I just tell everybody, buy a fucking sword.
Wow. Well said, brother. Very powerful.
I mean,
all right. Brother Sean, you said it. Here go the next paragraph, a couple of sentences backing up what you said. La Rakim, in the sources of racial thought in colonial America, states that the slave trade worked in both directions, with white merchandise as well as blacks. The source is the Journal of Negro History. In 1659, the English Parliament debuted the practice of selling British whites into slavery into the New World. In the debate, the white slaves were referred to not as indentured servants, but as slaves whose enslavement threatened the liberties of the Englishmen. Foster R. Dulles in Labor in America quotes an early document describing white children in colonial servitude as crying and mourning for redemption from their slavery. Dr. Hilary Dr. Hilary Beckles, of the University of Hull, England, writes regarding white slave labor, indentured contracts were alienable? I know y'all know I'm getting tongue-tied because I'm getting tired. What's the one when they say that you have the rights and it starts with, it's ALIE. No, ALIENABLE. I'm just tongue-tied. I can't pronounce it.
Inalienable, right?
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. I just couldn't pronounce it right now. Inalienable, the ownership of which could easily be transferred, like that of any other commodity, as with slaves. Ownership changed without their participation in the dialogue concerning transfer. Beckles refers to the indentured servants as white proto-slavery. All right. So what
they
we're
didn't
going
have power of attorney.
Exactly. So I have a video. It's only about, where the hell is it if I can find it? If not, I should have stopped a little earlier. The video I want to reference is White Slavery 101, What They Never Told in History Class, off of Vegas View 77. Let's see if we have enough time to play it. Damn, y'all, this time went by fast. Maybe I'll do it next week. We're not going to have time this week.
You got to be having fun so fast, though, you see.
I know. I mean, we just put out so much stuff, and we put something on, and the next thing I know, I'm like, damn, it's almost time. It's 8 minutes. Go ahead, brother.
Inalienable. In a lien, they're able to take your property.
Damn.
It's unalienable.
Damn. There you have
they're
it.
Unable.
They turned you into a legal alien. A foreigner.
Exactly.
No, a foreigner. Yeah.
Yep.
That's what it is.
That shit is deep.
That's the only way you get out from
America.
Is an alien.
And then I say, in the meantime, who's really the alien?
Mm-hmm.
The indigenous who was minding their fucking business and they little territories in harmony with their lands that operated that way for thousands, if not millions of years? Or the Romans who everywhere they go, they have to keep moving because they destroy the land and don't know how to live in harmony. So who's really the alien here? I'm just saying.
Bam! You're supposed to hit the kaboom thing afterwards, right?
Oh, okay. So I'll play the video next week because we're not going to have time. I'll read a couple of more from They Were White and They Were Slaves, and then we'll pick back up next week. In the calendar of state papers, Colonial series, America and the West Indies of 1701, we read of protests over the encouragement to the spiriting away of Englishmen without their consent and selling them for slaves, which has been a practice very frequent and known by the name of kidnapping. In the British West Indies, plantation slavery was instituted as early as 1627. In Barbados, by the 1640, there were an estimate of 25,000 slaves. Damn! Woo, y'all. Let me read that again. I was reading ahead. My bad, y'all. Barbados, by the 1640s, there was an estimated 25,000 slaves, of whom 21,700 were white. Shit. That's interesting because remember when we were in the Black Nobility series, we saw where the indigenous Irish folks that were melanated were also being shipped over to Barbados. Damn, now this is deep. Woo. It is worth noting that while white slaves were worked to death in Barbados, there were Caribbean Indians. Yeah, goddamn it, shit. There were Caribbean Indians brought from Guyana to help propagate native foodstuffs who were well treated and received as free persons by the wealthy planters. Okay? So he kind of fucked up by saying they were brought from a different land. No, boo-boo. That was their shit. That was their land. That's why they knew how to work the land. And that's why they were classified as free. Yeah, God damn it. Of the fact that the wealth of Barbados was founded on the backs of white slave laborers, there can be no doubt white slave laborers from Britain and Ireland were the mainstay of the sugar colonies. Until the mid-1640s, there were a few blacks in Barbados. George Downing wrote to John Winthrop, the colonial governor of Massachusetts in 1645, that planters who wanted to make a fortune in the British West Indies must procure white slave labor out of England if they wanted to succeed. Okay? So remember when we were in Black Nobility, we went through those ship manifests and showed you how the melanated, quote, quote, black Irishmen and Brits were sent over to Barbados, and how most of the melanated folks in those areas today, if not all of them, that's where they were from. So you had three sets of people there. You had the melanated Europeans, you had the white indentured servants / slaves, and then you had the indigenous people of the land. Because you cannot have someone come from another foreign land to try to grow shit in land that they know nothing about. They have to be taught how to cultivate and grow the particular indigenous crops of the land. So, all right, that's a good stopping point. We're going to do last words for the family. So, Brother Lex, we're going to go with you first. You have any last words for the family?
No, I'm exhausted. This is an amazing conversation. This ain't for everybody. Even just the conversation period. Even the idea of this history. It just isn't for everybody. Don't waste your time arguing with people. Say what you're going to say and just keep moving. And I appreciate everybody's participation, man, because without this, we're just dumb niggas from somebody else labeling us.
Right. Indeed. Thank you so much, brother. Sis, you have any last words for the family?
Well, not really. I just sit here and learn and suck up some of the things I already knew, because I knew about, Burnell. He's a historian. He has 2 books out, one is called the Black Athena, and he told a lot of this stuff and who did what to whom. So they didn't like him because he was spilling the beans. And this lady is modern day, right? So it's good that even though his book wasn't recognized or appreciated, modern days, she probably will go pretty far with that one that she has going on. And I like that. Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Brother Sean, you have any last words for the family?
Yeah. Beyond what you've been taught, that which is, and that's you. Be you. Remember you. Know thyself.
Indeed. Indeed. Well, thank you, family, so much. Thank you to my co-host. Thank you to Brother Lex for joining us. We will be back next week, pick up where we left off. Thank you so much, family, for your support. It is truly appreciated. We're going to rock out with some music. I know we're going to get cut off, but peace and love to you all, family. Thank you so much.